All right. You guys ready to rumble?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Who wants to do the intro, or should I?
Hang on,
What's this
can you
about?
still hear me?
Yes.
I can still hear you.
Yep, good. That's okay. Just because fiddling about with the electrics in this office does tend to knock my microphone out for some reason.
I don't. What's this episode about?
Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of Old Grumblers podcast. With me, my co-hosts, Monster Bounce, COLONELDAMNEDERS. I don't actually know where they're sitting, and also esteemed guest, a humble people's person from Texas who spends most of his days riding full-blooded Mustangs, protecting cattle from rustlers. You might know him best as a deadly weapons expert that gets called into hit TV show Pawn Shop, having made his millions putting down unorthodox bets in horse racing, and as an investor outside of the studio of Shark Tank. He now languages on YouTube as the premier lore expert in everything Warhammer Fantasy Battles and Season 3, Episode 5 of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Welcome to the podcast, Loremaster of Sotek.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. Yeah, I've lost everything. I need help.
That's why we're here.
You don't end up on this podcast if you got options, all right? That's all I'm saying.
This is rock bottom, to be fair.
And today we will be discussing which reworks or what faction or lord reworks would do really well from a lore perspective. We rework them because a lot of the lords, heroes, factions aren't super lore friendly. They are gamified, so we're thinking if we made them gamified but from a lore perspective, how would we rework them? That's why we have the premier lore experts, Loremaster of Sotek.
Hell yeah, brother.
So he can slap us down. We don't do
No,
that.
no,
That's not
no,
right.
no,
That's
no.
incorrect.
They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. So, who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I got one. I got my
fantastic.
I got my white whale, as I always have to bring it up. It's contractually obligated. For me, the biggest one, especially when you look at it lore-wise, for me, it's always the Demons of Chaos, of just a faction that used to be this wonderful, diverse system of interesting ideas and characters and thoughts, and then it got squished into a Build-A-Bear character and just left there to languish in the sun ever since. Like, I feel like what they initially approached it with, like, I could see the logic behind what they were doing as like, oh, this will be fun. Like, you can kind of make your own character and like everything kind of builds around him, but it falls really flat really fast, especially when you're... Oh, go ahead.
It is a proof of concept. You can like definitely see that it's like a proof of concept that's put into the game haphazardly. And it's like, we can make this work. Look what we can make. And then it's just laying there in the sun, as you're saying, just being even ever more ripened.
Yeah, it kind of comes off as what would have been a cool thing of like, look, you can have customizable characters, but maybe this character just leans more heavily into it. But instead it ended up being more of a, this is the only customizable character. Yeah. Have fun, deal with it. And for me, the big thing, of course, is that coming from a tabletop Warhammer Fantasy background, the Demons of Chaos were, a flagpole of faction, as opposed to kind of being this off-the-wall niche. Granted, CA ended up taking such a different perspective than I was used to when they split all the gods up and had it where you had your mono gods in addition to Warriors of Chaos, in addition to Demons of Chaos, in addition to Beastmen, which created a lot of different weird things that, whenever they reveal a new character, there's always the raging debates about where exactly they should go and that kind of mess. But the big thing for me when it comes to like reworks and making a lore accurate thing is I would love for them to make the Demons of Chaos feel like an actual faction. So a tech tree, giving them some actual mechanics outside of just Daniel. Like, if you play as Daniel, yeah, sure, he has his Build-A-Bear systems, which are great and awesome. But the idea that the Demons of Chaos don't have unholy manifestations, which are standard for all of the other quote-unquote demon armies that we see throughout the game, and that they don't have a more standard character. Like, I'm always very strongly of the opinion that Be'lakor should be added to the demons. But unfortunately, Be'lakor wasn't, originally kind of planned to be playable, and so he just sort of got tacked on the Warriors of Chaos as a simple, again, a redneck engineering type situation. And I think it would be really, really nice and add in a really different experience to make the demons, especially when you look at like how in multiplayer you get to play the Demons of Chaos like I want them to exist, which is a faction where you have no mortals, but you have all the different demons. And you get to play around with all of your different demon toys and combine them and create kind of interesting armies and effects. But if you play as Daniel, just looking at like the characters you have to work with, you get demon characters, but they haven't been properly set to the system you're working within. So like if you look at the red skill trees, they still have all of their stuff from as if they were from their monogod faction. So they don't offer you any incentives to run a united demon army. And Daniel, furthermore, because of the way he's kind of set up to, you can either go mono demon or you can go big demons. He has mortals, so he just has every single chaos unit in the system instead of just demons. So he's not actually offering much of a unique demon experience. Instead, he's just all the monogod factions kind of stuffed into a closet. And if you try to run diverse demon armies, you get actively punished because of the way his buff systems work, where he makes his army really good, no matter who's in it. But any of your second or third or fourth armies, no matter who's leading them, they're only going to buff the units that are relevant to them. Because while the Warrior of Chaos characters have the really nice red skill trees that are like, oh, buff all demonic and non-demonic cavalry units, the demon characters don't have that. They only buff specific units, which means that it's this really weird system where if you try and mix your toys together in an interesting way, you're actively punished for it. And it's just sad. It just makes me sad.
Yeah, it would be cool to see some more incentive to mix and match, and maybe make it so that, if you have some bloodletters and they're fighting alongside some blue horrors or whatever, then they get some like cool synergy when they go together. There's something there that incentivizes you to do it. The skills absolutely should just be the Warriors of Chaos ones. I can't believe that got through, but it was done.
Yeah, it's really weird that they don't have just the same ones. Just buff all the melee infantry demons over there. Just all the demonic cavalry in another skill. Like it's so easy to fix just like one of those problems.
I always found Daniel's skill tree to also just suck. Because
it's so big. Like it's
way too big. It's way too big.
Yeah.
And like all the different lines, it's just, this is good for Nurgle troops. This is good for Khorne troops. And while that's like, it's all right because he can be the multi-demon lord, it's like I have to invest like 12 points to make all of my demons from every branch of demon like this much better. Wouldn't it make so much more sense to have the Khorne one that's like focused on melee and then the Siege one that's focused on range, but it's just everyone's units?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if it's like that anymore, but you used to be able to at least like sink 12 skill points into just Furies, and they would be insane after that. Like absolutely crazy.
Does his tree it's still like the 3 points for every skill, which is something they've actually kind of gotten rid of on most lords, where they've knocked it down to 2. But for his, it's still 3 points all the way. And you can't do that, where if you pick like a specific unit, you can just spec really hard. But it's also weird that because he doesn't have a tech tree, which I still don't understand why there's no tech tree. His skill tree is also the tech tree, which is why you have to invest into certain abilities if you want like any decent faction buffs beyond using your the points that he gets for like the various gods. Something I think would also be nice is that even if they wanted to keep that system for like, if they brought Be'lakor over and they're like, well, this system only works for Daniel because it unlocks his body parts. Something that I've thought about often is that you could use that system to have them, instead of it just be points that fill a meter and that's it, instead reworking it into a buying system using the points, where maybe you're able to like buy certain techs with them, and like you have a tech tree that like has each of the 4 gods and then an undivided section in the center, and it costs certain amounts of the various points to buy the different techs, or you can buy like specific unholy manifestations. If they brought that system over, you would use the appropriate points. Like you have enough Nurgle points, you can buy the Nurgle unholy manifestation. It gives you a faction-wide buff. And they could also use it to maybe kind of like what Colonel was talking about, bringing in the ability to buy certain kinds of like synergies or buffs if you have like certain kinds of units combined to, like, if you have enough Khorne units, enough Tzeentch units, you're able to use certain kinds of abilities and certain kinds of powers to reward you for running a mixed army. Because even though presumably the lords, being the heralds and the greater demons, would lean more into spec, and I guess demon princes as well, would lean more into specking a particular type of army, where if you have a Slaanesh character, obviously he's going to have certain advantages for Slaanesh only units, but you could then still have that system of, if I want to invest in this army, I could maybe get some kinds of upgrades or active buffs that if you run a more diverse army, although your buffs maybe aren't extending as far, if you fulfill certain qualifications, you're able to get, like, oh, you got 3 Slaanesh, 3 Nurgle, well, here, you get this interesting army buff that's kind of a mixture of Slaanesh and Nurgle themes, like a disease with an interesting Slaanesh twist. Or if you've got enough Tzeentch units and enough Khorne units, then they kind of benefit each other in a way where maybe your Tzeentch units are a little more melee fighty now, and your Khorne units maybe get like some barrier, stuff like that. Just things to make the army. The big thing for me is, beyond moving Be'lakor over, which is something that is a hill I will die on happily. But making it where if you're playing with more than a single stack, like the second you recruit a second Lord beyond Daniel, you go, oh, there's interesting things I can do with this character, instead of it just being Daniel. That's all that matters.
A really cool thing, actually, now they mention it, is if they would lean into more the favor system, like how much favor you have for each of the Chaos gods. Like you would just get more and more Tzeentch favor, and that's the way you would actually unlock to be able to recruit more and more things. Because demons don't really, go to they don't have a barracks or anything like that where you just make more bloodthirsters or whatever, and you don't pay them a better, whatever. They're just like there, basically. So when you unlock them, if you have more, I don't know, maybe win some magic or something like that, you could just summon them into the world in a better
that'd be
place
slick.
instead. Because I've been
Go
playing Age of Wonders now for a couple of days, and they have that system where you have different like shadows, you have Immaterium, you have nature, stuff like that. And the more you unlock there, the more powerful tomes you unlock as well. I mean, that system is already in Warhammer as well. For like every army, you have the favor of them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and there's so many fun ways you could do that, where it's like maybe it's for every tech you get from a different god, that's you also simultaneously building up that overall passion. Or like, oh, you've got a certain amount of these units, that god is going to reward that army for crossing the threshold of having that many units per army, and give it certain buffs. That I would like that very much, I think.
Instead of just like, now you dedicated your undivided prince completely to Khorne, and you get this really sucky axe.
Oh,
well done.
Yeah. or my favorite, where if Daniel does any tree except undivided, he gets actively punished because he loses access to a massive amount of the roster.
Yeah.
Which is like, well, what if maybe like if you're running a Tzeentch army, you can make it cost like just extra or favor or something
to
get Khorne units, instead of just saying, no, you can't have them.
Because that would actually be really...
I think that, to be honest, both Be'lakor and Daniel, their problem is the fact that the demon factions are kind of weird in general, and I don't think they should have been split up. I think they should have all been bundled into... There should have been Demons of Chaos, and then you should have had the Legendary Lords, and the demons should have... For one, I find it weird demons take territory anyway. Like, that just seems odd to me.
It all becomes part of the waste.
Absolutely... Yeah, because they absolutely seem to struggle with it. It kind of worked with Kugath, and I guess Nakari's fine, and and Kairos is kind of, but then they kind of got to...
You don't like Scarbrand Empire Builder?
They were like, I guess he takes settlements, maybe, because the others do.
He's an infrastructure fiend. Scarbrand, how dare you?
He uses skulls to make settlements, I guess. But it's just kind of this thing of, if they'd sort of... Because I always thought that Demons of Chaos was just one one race, right? Because, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but in like, I'm thinking 5th edition, you didn't you could, it was going to be very hard to make a Khorne army, for example, because the actual roster was going to be like 3 units deep. So it tended to be, if you were going to make a Chaos Demon army, it was going to be 2 gods roughly. Like you'd have sort of a mixture of 2 gods and a mix of other units. So the idea that you just kind of make this, you just have this Khorne faction is fine, but I think it means they struggle with things like Daniel and Be'lakor, because they don't quite know how to deal with factions that aren't a monogod. And it makes it really messy. And I think that's particularly with Daniel, where they just kind of, you're right, they had this idea, and then as with Creative Assembly, often they have these really great ideas, and there's definitely the gem of like the gem of a really good idea there, and then they're never given the time or resources to actually follow through on it, and it just kind of peters out after a while.
And what you said, that's building settlement skulls. I just imagine like Scarbrand's coming there, like dumping 2,500 skulls in some ruins. And then some poor bastard in glasses and a mohawk is standing there with a clipboard, just looking at Scarbrand, just.
Scarbrand's like, all right, I need you to make this into a fully functional train station. I'll be back in 3 hours.
He doesn't even say anything. He just points with his axe. He's like 2,500 skulls there, and the dude just sighs, knows exactly what's up. This is not why I joined this. Not at all.
Yeah. So Monsters is, it's you're right in that. So demons have such a weird history, because like for most of Warhammer's history, you just had chaos, just chaos all together in one big happy family. And then when we kick around to 6th edition, they separated the beastmen from the hordes of chaos, which was mortals and demons. But you could still like run them together a lot, because they still were like, oh, we know that you used to run them together, so we'll still kind of allow it. And then we hit 7th edition, where they split them all up. So that's when the demons became their own unique thing. And they said, okay, you're going to run mixed armies, and here's enough demonic units that you can actually do that now by mixing all your gods together. Wherein, if you went and read the Hordes of Chaos book, it actively discouraged you from mixing your gods. It was, you would pick a character, he would take a mark, and whatever mark he took, that was basically like the army. Or like the units they were with and stuff. But generally, your general, you would run a Khorne army and just mix mortals and demons together. Kind of with like what we see with Total War. And then the Demons of Chaos came out later. So Total War put themselves in this, I think, kind of interesting position where, and I suspect it was probably Games Workshop telling them of that. Games Workshop for Age of Sigmar and for 40k had transitioned back to, oh no, we're doing monogods. And then you have like your warriors army, your beastmen army, but there's no demons. They show up with their individual guys. The only exception, of course, being Be'lakor. Be'lakor, even in Age of Sigmar and old fantasy, always had a unique system where he could run a pure demon army, and that was just his gimmick. And then in 7th edition, they made it into like an actual army book instead of just needing Be'lakor. But Creative Assembly, unfortunately, kind of put Daniel in that role instead, which meant that instead of getting like an iconic character that built a lot of uniqueness around him, they picked a faceless character who they... And Daniel's always so weird to me as well, because like you have the whole thing of he's supposed to be a Build-A-Bear, but he's very obviously Prince Yuri from the opening, and he has a set background with a set like thing of like, oh, he's a Kislevite. It's like, wouldn't it be cool if you could like select from like a little drop down menu of like where he's from, and he gets like a different voice actor and like a different like relationship and stuff like that, instead of it just being the Kislevite that if you kill him you get plus 20 bonus to Kislevite relations.
Like, oh, you killed a god, we like you slightly more now. But it's just like you're saying, like lore wise, there's not much difference in it's just chaos, right? Right. You have a bunch of people who worship chaos, and they go and maybe put on some armor, but they become warriors of chaos, and they'll go maybe take on a war herd and just become the new chief of the war herd, and maybe they'll summon a couple of demons, but it's all the same thing. And Creative Assembly just jumble that a little bit more, but just with just making Norsca a thing as well, because they're also just chaos.
Norsca was I love it, but also like they were not doing themselves any favor. That decision.
I have Norsca on my list of things to complain about today as well. So
we can move on. I mean, unless y'all have something else to add, I think I've said my piece.
I've got one more thing, and it's, I don't know if this will be lore friendly, but why can't you do the demon building on other people? Like, why is it just him? And then what you were saying about like how you, instead of unlocking everything, you buy the parts. That system would work really well with multiple lords. It's like, oh, well, if I want all my lords to be wearing the Khorne right arm of ultimate destruction, I'll just buy 2 of them. That's fine. Rather than unlocking them, then you're limited in that department.
Yeah, I'll do you one better of that. I agree that all the demon princes could be Build-A-Bears without changing anything. But obviously CA was like, well, we want that to be Daniel's thing. It's like, well, just make Daniel better, like double the effect or something. But the thing that I had hoped for when they initially revealed Daniel is that, once again, that Daniel would have been the best at it. Like, oh, he gets every single slot is a Build-A-Bear slot. Though I still think it'd be cool if he could have items, because it sucks when you're like, I got the Sword of Cain with Daniel. So he's like, nope, I want nothing to do with this. Throw it on the ground.
I've got 4 arms.
If it's not attached to an arm, I don't want it.
Yeah. I can't just shove the piece. I can't shove the sword in this arm. But what I was hoping they would do is introduce like a smaller system, just game wide, of like, oh, pick a character and they have a weapon slot, and you can either give them sword and board or 2-hand weapons or a great weapon.
That was such a great system.
That was what I actually thought they were going to do with this. Just do small change to models. Like, oh, okay, they're introducing modular lords. So maybe just Karl Franz won't have Galmras in his hand all the time when he's having the rune fang and stuff like this. Maybe that's what what I was thinking.
I guess the problem with that is that although Karl Franz probably has a similar skeleton to some Imperial soldiers, a lot of the legendary lords do have bespoke skeletons, which means if you did it for Karl, you'd have to do it for every legendary lord would need a rehash, which is just a huge amount of work.
From now perspective,
and that's a problem.
It would be a mess. I agree, but like it's a shame to me that it wasn't what it ended up being.
I mean, to be fair though, there's not like there's no lord in the game that only has a sword as well, so they can definitely just have like humanoid one-handed sword, and then they have a couple of unique animations with Galmras and all that, because they don't have a lot of unique animations now anyway. Like people went above and beyond in Warhammer 2 and put in some unique combat animations with like dragons and Hellpit Abomination, stuff like that. But we didn't see any of that in Warhammer 3.
No, but even basic attack. I mean, thinking things like, Nakai has his Skippy attack. Malekith always carrying his sword over his shoulder. Just trying to get him to carry something different would be impossible.
Yeah, you always need a complete game company for this. Somebody who makes games. Yeah. I wonder if they could maybe do this.
Not a complete game company anymore, unfortunately.
I think. I mean, I could still argue this. Maybe we should have them to a higher standard.
If they were doing 40k, I think they should definitely. I feel like the weapon switch outs for that would be something that you definitely would need.
50% of the roster there will probably be different kinds of space marines. Exactly. Like, that's a space marine. He's
easy peasy.
Yeah,
job done.
With
a good spike here.
I mean, just thinking about like for me the reveal from the other day of like the Night Goblin big boss, of like when I look at that and I look over at the regular Goblin boss and I'm like, man, it sure would be nice if I could say like, oh yeah, I want this Goblin boss to have a bow, so he's more of a shooty focused assassin character and can run around with like my Goblin Spider Riders and my Wolf Riders. And then my Night Goblin big boss could be like a melee guy who's sitting in a unit or near a unit and is more focused on like melee damage assassin. Because like, although I am excited for any new character, I look at those two and it's like, man, I really hope one of them has a shooting attack, because otherwise they're going to be doing a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I mean, I'm sure it would be a challenge for them to fix, but I think they could fix this. Speaking of challenges, the Eternal Challenger. Moving on to Norsca. Because that's one that I've had a gripe with for a very long time.
You never mentioned
Wolfric, the Eternal Challenger. He gets visions in his dreams to go and hunt a person as
do
a
we all.
cool challenge. He can challenge them in any language. So he travels the world on his goddamn teleporting boats. The only person in the lore that's supposed to be able to goddamn just teleports. If I'm not mistaken. And now, instead, he hunts monsters. Like he's in Supernatural. Instead of dueling them, he sits on a mammoth like this.
Wolfric is one of two characters that I get three characters that I get salty about when I think about their mount options. Like him, Cetra, and Teclis are all riding around on things they have no business being on.
I mean, at least Cetra gets Chariot of the Gods, right?
Yeah. Which they will probably continue buffing in every patch. Apparently.
Please use it. Please.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be pretty good in campaigns, at least. I've had a couple of fights with like 1,000 kills on just the chariot. It is the best chariot in the game by far.
Oh, absolutely.
But still, it's a chariot.
Yeah, Wolfric, there are so many cool ways they could do it. The mammoth I hate very much. Yeah, the idea that he would get up on some big beast where he's not personally doing anything, it's like it just ruins the character. But whatever. Maybe he just straps his sword onto like one of the tusks of the mammoth, or like has it hold it in its little trunk. But,
just stick his model on the end of the trunk, and he's just whoa!
I challenge you, and in my place, Binky.
Yeah, exactly. For me, the big thing is like Oxyodal introduced like a perfectly fine, like there's a threat somewhere interesting in the world, go over here and smack the heck out of it and then go home. And that is literally just what Wolfric does.
Yeah.
Like the only thing I could see to try and make it a bit more unique is with Wolfric in his stories, he does deal with the issue of while he can teleport, he has to do it on his boat. And Seafang has the restriction that it can sail through the sea of the realms of chaos, which is awesome, but it has to end up in like a body of water. So maybe giving it a type of restriction where he can only teleport to ports. So he can teleport anywhere he wants, but he has to go to different ports around the world. And the gods offer him like maybe using like a Lithnar's system or something similar, where they're like, hey, here's 3 characters that have made the gods mad that they want you to go kill and prove that you're better than them. So you need to teleport to a port that's near them. You have like 15, 20 turns to go track down these characters and kill them. And if you succeed, you get some really awesome rewards. And if the timer runs out, you maybe get a small like faction-wide penalty for a little bit or something. CA doesn't tend to be super big on like long-term penalties.
Because they always nerf those because nobody likes them.
Yeah.
It's like Malus. His Malus has been nerfed. It was nerfed like every single patch for 4 years or something. I'll do you one better. He has to be in water. He teleports to water, just any inlet or whatever, right? Like if he translates. Okay. I'm gonna do you one better. If you translate Viking. And if you're like Scandinavian, you would know that an inlet is Vik, and somebody who lives in the Vik would just be Viking, which is just Viking. Like that's the etymology of it, which is the most popular one. He can just go to any inlet, any body of water, any like small shitty lake, whatever.
Just teleports to Caliphan's bathroom.
How much water? Did the Chaos Gods ever specify? Because I went, you need to appear in a body of water. He's like, how much water?
My understanding, as long as his boat fits, it's fair.
Like a duck pond? Can I do a duck pond? And Korn's like, yes, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really...
A bath? Like a full bath?
What are the dimensions of your boat?
It just sends out people in advance just to like dig out little moats.
Tape measure.
I mean, I still love that he summons Seafang on the battlefield, but it's kind of this little dinky boat that's got like six guys in it.
It's like literally like a canoe.
Yeah. Which, hey, I mean, if you're using that standard of measurement, then he could fit in just about any body of water.
Yeah.
There you go.
But also, I think it's very important to always think without too many restrictions, because we really went from a couple of years ago when this idea was thrown around about teleportation, and people said, oh, well, he can teleport every 20 turns or every 10 turns. And the Wood Elves came around. It was like 10 turns, and you can get that down to, 1 turn in certain cases. Then Oxyol came around, and you can teleport way more often than that as well. So
I mean, that might be a good buff for Wulfric, is that maybe he starts the campaign only being able to teleport to certain places, and then as he gets bigger, goes through certain gimmicks, he gets a wider range of how he can teleport to, and it builds up to where he can literally just go anywhere.
Yeah, and now we also have a really good system as well to choose a champion to fight. Because now with the grudgeometers, they just translate that into who has won and fought the most. Just a global grudge, essentially, like a fight-o-meter, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sees the top 3, and he goes and fights that dude. Or dudess, or whatever.
I like the infamous system for the vampires, where it's like, well, I need to get to this level before I fight this one. So if it's just like, all right, go kill the big beastman guy, Torox, who's on like this 98 turn rampage and has a guerrillian armies, you might be able to be like, maybe I should, go fight like a Fey Enchantress or something first, someone that's a little less scary.
Yeah.
But then with Oxyotl, when you target an army, that army gets stuck in place, doesn't it? Because I remember that
very likely, yeah.
Because I remember on Oxyotl campaign that I got Scarbrand as one of the targets, and I didn't attack him for like 8 turns, and he just sat there.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, they stay static, so that I'm guessing so they don't run off and suicide themselves into the nearest settlement. So
well, that's boring.
Takes all the challenges out of it.
But then that means I guess that means then at least that's because it would be pretty rubbish if Oxyotl teleported somewhere and Scarbrand had fucked off. He was now halfway across.
That's
the map.
true. That's also true. Yeah. I would, I would guess that was probably a way they dealt with that, maybe being like an issue in QA where they're like, I keep getting Oxyotl quests for these characters and then they die.
Wander off. I can't find them anymore.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that's why. But I really like Oxyotl's mechanics. So
I mean, it's a fun campaign, and Wulfric should be just as fun.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Like you just, add different incentives and different like tweaks and stuff. But I think that system, like the second I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, Wulfric should just be doing this. It's just teleporting to certain enemies. And
then get some. I don't even think he really. It would be fun with some good big buff that he would get, so he would build up to like these massive armies eventually that he would have fights. But the Chaos Gods are fickle anyway. They're like, fight this dude. All your enemies get like 20 ward save. But if you fight him, you get, I don't know, 2 melee attack, 10 turns. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think like just some like fun temporary buffs to kind of show it's like, yeah, the gods are kind of capricious, so you have to keep going, you have to keep doing it.
Momentum.
Oh,
so it's like if he has that momentum, he can stack like a crazy amount of buffs, but having them all on timers, I think would be smart.
You know what he should have instead? He should have when he wins, he gets a couple of units in a like Rakarthas for the beast cages, like that he can just reinforce with whenever he needs to. Because the biggest problem with Norsca is that when you're out on raiding, it's like 5 turns in global recruitment or something like that. You just need to like replace and move on. As long as you win, you can just replace some stuff at least. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, for Norsca, there is the whole idea from like a lore standpoint of that they have the spring drivings where they tend to like run home, build up, shoot out, run home, build up, shoot out. But when they actually get going on like a conquest type campaign, there are some stories about how they'll attack somewhere, set up a little base, and then they basically send a small group home to go brag about how good they're doing and like they've won all these great battles and they're set up at this place, so that when the spring comes again, a reinforcement force shows up and it's all these new individuals that have pledged to their banner because they're like, oh, these guys are winning and they're actually getting some glory. So maybe there could be a type of spring driving mechanic where you have certain kinds of units that basically act as those reinforcements, people that are called to your banner, as long as you're like successfully winning campaigns.
Like the Marcus mechanic.
Yeah, something kind of like that, where as long as you're like, but making it more like so long as you're keeping up victories, you like every time you win a certain amount of fights, you get some units that are kind of held in reserve to back up, and you could summon them instantly to your armies in question to give you that option. Yeah, something like that could work really well, I think.
That's great. Obviously, Throg would also need something. So what he should have,
The new voice
Yeah.
actor.
yeah, he should be clever as well, because he is he's not just smart for a troll. That dude is he is intelligent.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
Just get like Patrick Stewart or someone to do it. Someone that's really like high class.
Yeah, he's very
yes, just have Matt Berry.
Yeah.
Charles
Oh.
Dance. You need Charles Dance. Is it
Or
Charles,
Charles
Dance? Yeah.
Matt Berry would be more funny. I would love to have Matt
Matt
Berry
Berry would
as Thankgol, but nobody tells him how a Skaven is supposed to sound. So he's just like, "It is I, Thankgol. Yes, agree. Yes."
Him
But
in
anyway.
literally any role in Warhammer would be so good.
Yeah, just nobody tells him really what Warhammer is. He's like, "I'm Throg." But he should unlock underways from place to place. Because he's smart, he can figure out how to go into an underway, and then he would try to conquer holds that are important from either a lore perspective or as a capital or something like that, and he would get artifacts. Because a really cool thing about him is in the book with him and Gotrek, when Gotrek is cornering him, he doesn't bribe him with gold, and he doesn't bribe him with stupid stuff like that. But instead, he does it with culturally important artifacts like old books of grudges from lost holds, maps, important cool stuff essentially that he knows that someone else appreciates the actual values, because those things are priceless. It's not just heaps of gold or whatever. So when he gets those, he actually gets some small buff for it as well, like a WA bonus or something like that, but it's permanent, and you can have a little cabinet of it. It's like, behold, my stuff. In the voice of Matt Berry.
Yeah, Throg. There's so many interesting directions they could go with him by leaning into his actual stories instead of just being like troll, which unfortunately is kind of what they did. But I actually would really like the idea, the whole thing of how he gets the Wintertooth crown, which is the lore kind of vaguely theorizes that it might be what kind of kicked off the series of events that led to his intelligence, was him putting the crown on one of his tusks, which he got from when he lived in the kind of labyrinthian maze that he lives in Troll Country. Some great adventurer made his way to Throg in there, and they fought, and Throg kills and eats him. And then while Throg's after he kills him, he has this shiny thing, and he puts it on his tusk, and all of a sudden he kind of oh, fought. So I kind of love the idea of him kind of identifying important relics and artifacts, and either giving him, maybe that could be a system where he gets those kind of fun little buffs, or he gets access to special items from other units rosters where he's like, this looks important, let's take this. But something that when it comes to something like the Underway, there is the thing that Throg is a troll, and the idea that he would know about where the trolls live, where they live down these dank caves beneath the earth, and they live beneath a lot of the holds. There's this whole series of events in the Dwarven history known as the Troll Wars, where the trolls came out in force because a volcano blew up and chased them all out of their homes. And for Throg, I think it would be completely awesome for him to have this idea of that he has certain interactions where he's able to discover groups of trolls as he's kind of moving. You can give him Underway stance to kind of signify this, but also maybe when he takes certain kinds of mountainous settlements or settlements of a certain climate, he's able to find different kinds of trolls, maybe depending on the environment. So he gets access, because a lot of people want him to have access to every troll unit, because he's the troll king. He should be able to have all the trolls. So maybe making it where maybe kind of something similar to the wall mechanic, where if he takes settlements in certain kinds of regions or certain kinds of climates, maybe he can find new types of trolls from those locations, almost like the Savage Orc system, where there's if you go to this particular area, you can find stone trolls, or if you go over here, you can find green-skinned common trolls, or if you go over to these marshlands, you can find swamp trolls. If you go to up at the Chaos Waste, you can find armored chaos trolls and stuff like that. Maybe could be a fun.
maybe start combining them with artifacts will also give access to a certain amount of some troll units. And if you get another settlement that has roughly the same climate or something like that, they'll add into the recruitment as well.
Yeah, it is very funny to imagine Throg just like smashing his way through Altdorf, and he's just like, this book looks excellent. I'll just add this to my collection.
Yes, I haven't read this one in Math Base.
Eating the librarians.
Yeah.
You could make it so like his early game, he's like, he doesn't have the intelligence, and your initial like quest to get started is to find that first relic, and it like kick starts him. Then the more you collect, the more of a giga brain genius he becomes and gets all these crazy buffs to his stats. Just like, I love when campaigns just result in one guy just being ridiculous. That's when you're having the most fun, when someone's just stupid, how strong they are. Like imagine Throg with like 70 defense and attack.
Yeah, Throg, the thing with Throg that they could do if they really wanted to, if they had that kind of artifact system, is Throg had a special rule in tabletop, which was his mutant regeneration. And what made his regeneration super unique was not only was his regen just obscene, so he was really hard to kill, but if he regenerated, if I recall correctly, if he regenerated a certain amount of wounds in like a small amount of time, like in a single phase or whatever, he could get a buff, because it would basically represent that he was regenerating so quickly that he would mutate. So he would like grow an extra arm, or he would grow like another mouth on his body, or like something would happen to him where he would essentially get stronger. So having that represented in some fashion where he's able to get more powerful in certain circumstances could be really fun.
You could have that one in a really easy way. It wouldn't be as cool, but you would just have he regenerates so fast that he actually now has -5 leadership on enemy units around him or something like that, because they stab and go, no, he's already up again, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a battle mechanic, it could be kind of fun. I don't know if CO would be able to do this. I assume they could, but it might be interesting if he had an ability that it unlocks higher tiers of its power based on how much health he's regenerated. So your goal is to try and get him to his healing cap, because he gets stronger the closer he gets to it.
That's a great idea.
They've got something similar with the Black Coach, haven't they? Where its number of kills unlocks.
Yeah,
there's a lot of those types of abilities.
Yeah,
so
there's a couple of those.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, like I have confidence in CA. They could do almost anything except fixing the gate bug. And I'm not even joking about this. Like, I don't think they can really fix that one.
Bug.
Oh yeah, the replay bug. But otherwise, like I actually have pretty high standards for them. That's why I always get angry when people just go, "Oh, just put that mechanic in there," or like reskin that thing. It's easy peasy. I was like, nah, they can make that from scratch. They're a big boy company. Don't worry.
Speaking of big boys monsters, do you want to go next, or do you want me to take the floor?
So we all know that Lizardmen are probably one of the factions with the best mechanics in the game.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, that Geomantic web.
Parentheses. Not a mechanic. It's a building.
So I was mulling this over. I was doing the homework, because Fred gets angry when I don't do the homework. He scolds me. So I was trying to think, is there any other faction in Total War where they have the mechanics are that shit? And I genuinely don't think there are. I think all of the Warhammer 1 factions have had their mechanics like boosted over time. So even the Empire's got like the elect accounts, all that kind of stuff. Bretonia's even got its what's it called? The quests and the, I want to say trope, but that's not the word.
Vows and whatever. The troughs.
Chivalry system.
Yeah, trough.
And the vows. Yeah.
So they've even got a mechanic that is better than the Geomantic web, which is terrible.
Vampires might be able to compete though, because there's stuff you have to, if you want to get it like really, really well, you have to like pay money every single turn for it. Like all the necromancers have to go around just like wound stuff all the time, and it's costs like $1,000 every turn.
But they still have a mechanic.
Oh yeah,
whereas
that's true.
The lizard
it's a mechanic
of the Geomantic web, which is terrible, basically nothing, and also blessed spawnings, which is so random as to be effectively unusable. Now there are, however, 2 legendary lords within the Lizardmen that do have good mechanics. Nikai obviously has his whole, well, basically he's barely a Lizardman faction, to be honest. He's completely different. His mechanics completely wildly different. I know Oxyotl has a teleport mechanic. So
not
I
anyone.
was thinking.
Well, yeah, Tanner's got his little sacrifice pyramid.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't talk about him. It's barely a mechanic. I mean, okay, yes, fair enough. It is a mechanic, but it's not a very good one. So I was thinking, what do Lizardmen do? What is Lizardmen's sort of drive? What are they trying to do? So let me paint a picture for you guys. So obviously the old ones have buggered off after, in my sort of head, buying a crap load of flat packed furniture from IKEA and then spreading the pages on how to build this just everywhere. And then obviously the polar warp gates collapse, shit hits the fan, they fuck off. The Slan then are kind of like, oh no, how are we going to build this? Because I've got and this is going to be incredibly culturally insensitive to you, Fred, but a kerfuffle shelf or something. But we have no idea how to build this because I've got 17 different pieces here and I think half of them are missing anyway. So I need the pieces of paper. Where are those pieces of paper? Where are the instructions that I need to build this kerfuffle? Oh, some arseholes have stolen it and taken it across the sea. So now I'm going to have to go send my boys to go and get that piece so I can build the first part of my kerfuffle shelf. So the Lizardmen mechanic should be thus. They want their plaques back. The plaques are missing and they need to go and get them. Now, this would basically be a fairly similar mechanic to the books of Nagash in my head. Because, and I know what you're thinking, Fred, but I don't have as much faith in CA as you do. So, look, I'm basing this on the fact there's been a seed replay bug in the game for over a year and they haven't fixed it. And it's one that they added to the game in a patch. So I don't know why they found it so hard to fix. But let's just assume. So I'm thinking that they should have basically like a Books of Nagash mechanic, but slightly different in that I think it should just be there are this number of them. I think they should be sort of custom generated. So like, you maybe start off with, there's a plaque here that you need to get, maybe your first army that you need to fight or something, the classic first battle of a brand new campaign. So you fight that one, you get the plaque, then 2 more appear and they're completely random. Maybe it gives you an ancillary, maybe it gives you a campaign effect, but maybe they start off quite kind of naff and then over time they get more powerful. But maybe as you kind of collect 1 plaque, it opens up, there's now 2 more. And maybe it's something like, well, this faction has it in their settlement. Like, oh, it's in Kazakarak. Do you want to go and fuck over the dwarves? Because that's your option if you want to, because Lizardmen are chaotic neutral. If they want something, they're going to get it regardless of what they think. So you're just going to go in there, you're going to burn down Kazakarak to get your plaque, and you're going to take that home. Job done. And then that sort of shows you where 2 more plaques are. You're kind of following a general sort of theme of collecting plaques. And that would give the Lizardmen a nice campaign mechanic to complete, and also be quite a good sort of objective for their campaign to actually, rather than, the sack, raise, or pillage 60 different settlements and kill these 2 factions. So I think they could have that. I think they should also probably have like a teleportation mechanic, because I do believe, and I'm worried about this because Sotek may slap me down, but there are certainly instances where Lizardmen have teleported, because I guess it would be very hard for them to explain why the Lizardmen have buggered off to Bretonia and managed. I'm fairly sure there's instances in the story where they have teleported. Am I right?
Yeah. They teleport fairly often. Yeah.
Cool. There we go. They're teleporting all the time. So they can have like a teleport mechanic, which maybe you could build into the geomantic web rather than it just being a shit way to make your commandments better. It's like the ability to send armies off. Maybe it needs like a recharge time. Maybe you need to collect resources for it. Who knows? But either way, you could then teleport an army over.
How do they teleport?
In the lore, the way they teleport, there's 2 methods. The first is that they have something called Pass of the Old Ones, which is basically, if you know 40k, it's basically the Eldar Webway, where it's like you walk into a place and then you show up on some other part of the planet rather quickly. But it's like, it's dangerous because there's like demons and other nasty stuff in there.
Is that like an old one that Godwin Felix uses to get to Albion?
Yes, yeah, that's the passive.
Oh, is it? Is it? I just thought those were like just pathways that were around because the worm world is weird. I didn't know those were Lizardmen. That's cool.
That's the one I had in my head, and I was like, I'm
nice.
fairly sure I do teleport.
Yeah, but there's also a lot of circumstances where like the Slann have just literally just opened a portal and are like, hey, go through here and kick the crap out of whoever you find. Like the story of Gorok getting back the Star of Quitli is all about that, because there's a Slann that's like, oh, these Dark Elves have stolen a really important item and they're like thousands of miles away. Hey, Gorok, walk through this portal and go kill those guys. And he's like, all right. And he just goes through and murders everybody and then walks back. So like in Mazdamundi has like teleported Krokgar to Albion, and there's all sorts of stories where the Slann, granted, you have to have a Slann awake and like willing to do it, but the Slann can just kind of open up portals and throw people. And there's a goofy story in the Storm of Magic about how on accident somehow a Storm of Magic summons an army of Lizardmen outside of Averheim, and the Lizardmen just start attacking the city. And then when the Storm of Magic ends, the Lizardmen just vanish and go back to Lustria, and the humans are like, what the hell just happened? Which is hilarious, and I love that story.
So
Master
yes,
Mundi
I
is
think
one of my. Oh, sorry,
that would be
you're
a
on.
really good mechanic for the Lizardmen. It's certainly better than what they've got. And I've also got one for Mazdamundi, which is I think he should have something similar to what the Changeling has, where if he does certain things in a region, it then has like, because you know he's all up for doing the completely crazy bullshit world geoengineering. I'm just not entirely sure how they would do that. And also the Changelings mechanic was always always a letdown for me, so that might not actually be a good idea.
I mean, I actually wrote that down in my document as well. Like, Master Mundi should just essentially terraform entire regions to be uninhabitable for other people. Don't actually like change anything on them. Just make it just uninhabitable or almost chaos waste for everybody else. Because he does make the northern mountain ranges and the other mountain range as well. And one of the mountain ranges just is kind of sentient as well.
The Great Guardians, yeah.
So everybody's always like, "Oh, Teclis is the best living wizard" or something like that, and they're like, Master Mundi's just like, "Am I a joke to you?"
I made a mountain.
Yeah, I think for I actually really like the idea of the sacred plaques, of having these like sacred plaques in various places and your goals to get them back. What could be interesting with those is having, so the sacred plaques in the lore are used to basically, the Slann get them back and they use it to interpret the great plan and figure out like what they're supposed to do. So you could have it of that. I like the idea of it building towards a victory condition, because I also really hate the like destroy X amount of settlements, because that's always like that's always the last part of my campaign. It's just a slog and it sucks.
So dumb.
But with the sacred plaques, what you could do is having the great plan itself be a mechanic of their. I mean, there's a couple different ways you could do it. Generally speaking, one of the things that and this kind of leans into Mazdamundi a bit, is that the Slann are really well known for using geomancy as like the most terrifying form of magic, because they use geomancy to do really crazy stuff like moving continents, or creating mountain ranges and flattening cities and doing all of those stuff. So maybe having the sacred plaques be a system where you can either use them to buy certain kinds of abilities, or they simply fill up a meter. They give you access to things as you unlock the secrets of the great plan and tap into what the geomantic web is supposed to be, which is a reservoir of magic that is used to not only ward against demons, but also to use geomancy, is what it's almost always used for. The idea of like picking a province and making it uninhabitable for anyone that's not Lizardman is hilarious. Or like very not friendly to anyone that's not Lizardman is hilarious to me. Or having like, oh, you have an ability that every certain amount of turns, you just pick a city and are like, die. Once you get up to a certain level, kind of like the Chaos Dwarfs with the Blood of Hashit, or like Lord Croak, but you use it as a campaign ability. Or the thing that I always really wanted for the geomantic web was army abilities, because army abilities are always fun when you get them, like a one-use spell or whatever, of like, hey, we've got like these sexy uber spells from the Storm of Magic, so maybe if you have enough Tap in the Winds of Magic, you're able to get some of those, or you're able to use just geomantic type spells, where we have spells in the game that look like, big earthquake effects, like Mazdamundi's Ruination of Cities, but you could make it if you get a certain level of power, that becomes an army ability that all of your armies have access to as a one use only, instead of it just being an ability that Mazdamundi's sitting on. But one of the things that I think a big thing for me, we kind of talked about this earlier, when it comes to like the blessed spawnings. I would love so much for them to be actually work like how they're supposed to, which is that you have a selection of old ones, and you're able to get a unit dedicated to that old one. It gives them like a fun buff. Because right now, we kind of have the system where it's like a generic blessed spawning of that unit. I think it'd be so much nicer if it was something kind of similar to like the scrap system or Drycha system, where you're able to pick a unit and give them a sacred spawning, and it gives them a certain kind of upgrade. And it's like, here's a list of old ones, and you pick which old one you want to dedicate the unit to, and they get like an appropriate buff. Because there's only like, I think there's only like 6 old ones that actually have like demonstratable buffs, so it shouldn't be that hard to kind of like create like an interesting mix for all the Skink, Kroxigor, and Saurus units. Yeah, I really like a Sacred Plaque idea, because that would actually finally give the Lizardmen, because probably the biggest issue with the Geomantic Web, while I like certain elements of it, I dislike how it always encourages the Lizardmen of, oh, okay, you're playing a Lizardman campaign, then you need to pick a major settlement and you need to conquer every single major settlement in like a path going outwards. And
that doesn't really matter for the Geomantic Web, though. If I'm not mistaken, like it doesn't really do anything. It's just a building that does the edict level. If it's one close to it, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it's like, but if you wanted to make it more interesting, like
yeah.
It would be you're gonna do the same path of conquering every single time.
Yeah.
Instead of like, where if you had something more like the Sacred Plaques, well, that could take you anywhere, and you could end up fighting, being rewarded for fighting opponents that you normally wouldn't. Of like, you're looking at this place and go, do I want to maintain this friendship with the dwarfs, or do I want to go in there and punch them in the face and take that Sacred Plaque, because then I can get this upgrade, or like I'm further to complete my goal or whatever? Or do I choose to maintain this alliance and just allow them to hang on to it, and go after a Sacred Plaque that's further away? I think that could actually work really, really well, because ultimately, I think when it comes to mechanics, it's important to like incentivize players to do something besides just empire building, of just like conquering the entire map and painting it one color. I think that's where mechanics really should have the ability to shine, is like incentivize you to break out of that format and do something different instead.
Yeah, it'd be cool that if the web was less every settlement and more like, all right, these specific settlements, and then the more settlements you have, the more it powers up like the greater web. And then I was thinking maybe you could have some sort of like Ikit/Elspeth thing, where more power to the web unlocks more upgrades for different various units or specific army abilities, and gain charges.
Yeah, that could actually work well for the Pass of the Old Ones as well. It's like, instead of it being like you can teleport between all these different node points.
That could be cool. Like these major settlements, every once in a while they would have like a buff, and the more settlements you have overall would power up all of the buffs as well. Things like that, or like shorten the cooldown for Path of the Old Ones.
Yeah, because there are some really nice maps from like the old Lizardman books that like show where all the points in the Geomantic Web are, and it's not like every major settlement.
Yeah,
it's like all of the Lizardman cities are built on one, all of the like major Lizardman cities, but there's like, I think there's only like 20. There's probably less than that. It's probably like 15 to 20-ish sites in the entirety of Lestria, which is huge.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I like the plaque idea, because I always think of Master Mundi as the Michael Scott from the Office of the Lizardmen, because Michael Scott doesn't know really what he's doing as manager, and Master Mundi doesn't really know what he's doing as somebody who rules the city, because his bosses just kind of went away. So all the Slaanesh are sitting around, and he's like, oh, there's a ripple in the pond. I'm gonna take that as a sign, because I can. So instead, it would be like finding a bunch of IKEA furniture, and then he would have to scrounge away for the instructions. And then when they come back, the entire office is, like slightly faulty IKEA furniture around.
I always loved that Mazda Mundi did the equivalent of like getting a instruction manual that was in a different language. So he runs off to go meditate on it for like years. And then he comes back and everyone's like, Mazda Mundi, what'd you figure out? And he goes, genocide. We need to kill everyone that's not doing what we tell them to do. And everyone's like, oh yeah, of course.
And solution to all of life's problems, genocide.
Every single time, it's just like, a couple of leaves fell off from a tree. I don't know how they got there. Anyway, those dwarven holds, gone. I chased the mountains.
The bigger problem is the skinks, though, isn't it? Because the Slaanesh, they have a little nap, and they wake up, and the skinks have just completely remodeled everything. They've kind of like painted the walls. They've completely misinterpreted what's going on. They've brought some like humans in and been like, "We found these guys. What should we do with them?" And it sounds like, "Oh, for fuck's sake! It's like I fall
still-
asleep for 1,000 years.
I still love my favorite story being two skink priests saw some like flies flying in a certain pattern over a dead Slaam, like a relic priest. They saw some flies flying around his head, and the two priests got in such a heated argument about what it meant that it caused a civil war in that city between the different factions of skinks, which is great.
Yeah, superstitious
that's-
bunch, those Lizardmen.
Shall I
Because-
move on to a new one?
Yeah, what do you got?
Right. I didn't make any notes because I'm sure without cause and I had a bit of a week. But anyway, Slaanesh probably going to be the next DLC, or one of the next people in the DLC. And I'm
Sure.
of the opinion that Slaanesh kind of sucks. Hear me out. Right. So I like their
Unintended.
vassalization. I like their Nice. I like their vassalization thing in concept and like the whole idea of vassals. However, I think get rid of their settlements and just have them leech off a vassal. And that's like how they survive. They have no settlements, they have their vassals, and then they can, like, to a degree, control what's built. Monster's super out of focus, man. It looks like it's in witness protection. There we go. to a degree, they can, like, decide what's built inside of their vassal settlements, and then they can use that to, like, build their own infrastructure.
Like tell them you're a bulwark vassal, like in Stellaris. No, you're a, whatever.
You are
You're
a buffer
money,
between me and
you're
this
a money vassal.
this fallen empire. Don't do anything. I just find vassalization to be completely pointless when you have the option to conquer, because chances are you're going to make way more money from just owning all the land.
But it's pretty fun to vassalize.
I mean, yeah, but it'd be good if it was fun
Also,
and better.
I like vassalization just because it reduces the admin.
Well, yeah.
It's a lot of paperwork looking after all those settlements.
Yeah,
There's a lot
that's
of
definitely me.
sticking. I'm
Yeah.
just like, can someone else deal
I
with
get
it?
to
I'm
do
just
less
really
now.
bothered.
Wonderful.
My
But
bet is
what if it was
that's,
that,
one
but
of the
also
reason-
good?
Well,
True.
yes.
I'm betting that's one of the reasons why Warriors of Chaos are so popular now, because you just get your big cities and you're like, big money building, yeah. What are you doing there? Nothing? Keep up the good work. I'm going to go over here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I almost feel like that would probably just be a good just rework for vassals in general, would be the ability to dictate much harder to them. Like it would be so nice to be able to pick a vassal and they have like moods almost that you could select of like what kind of ways do I want to build, or just telling them what to build even. Because like I often like to get vassals because I usually want to recruit like those allied units as well. But like there's this frustrating thing where like you don't get any bonuses from recruiting from a vassal than like a military ally. It's like I almost feel like vassals, you should just be able to recruit whatever you want without paying the allegiance cost, because they're your vassal. They should just give you people. And it would be so nice to be able to tell them what to build, because then you could be like, oh, I want you to focus on economy so that you're giving me more money. Or I want you to focus on building these military buildings because I want access to these kinds of units. And I want you building these kinds of units in your armies. More like currently the vassals are extremely hands-off, which is okay sometimes when you don't want to deal with it and you're just like Warriors of Chaos and having a good time off the side. But like when you're actually wanting them to do things, like when I'm playing like Nakai, like one of the things that frustrates me is that like the allegiance system as well is not always like maxed out. Of like theoretically a vassal would work well, and that you should be able to just like take over their armies and wield them yourself if it's important. But that costs allegiance points, even though they belong to you. I would definitely like to see that if you want to have more control, if you want to have more interaction in telling your vassals what to do to make them more useful as like pawns and cat's paws, that you should have that option instead of it just being they're gonna just do whatever they want and you're gonna tell them to attack someone or occupy a ruin and hope that they do it at some point.
Yeah, I think there's sort of an issue in general. Sort of vassals is part of it, but the total war AI is not, the campaign AI is not very good at the moment. Have you noticed how armies blob around settlements?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean you can tell your vassal to attack something, and you would think that if I tell you to attack this objective, that is now the top priority for you. Like that is you throw your armies at that thing until I say stop or it's dead. Instead, you say, go and attack this thing. And even if they've got an army nearby, they will then ignore that for about 5 turns before deciding that, right, I'll get on that now. At which point they'll send an army that's, miles and miles away from this objective to head towards it up until it gets about halfway and then decides that, I can't really be bothered with this anymore. So I do think that, in general, the AI needs sort of a bit of a polish. And I would like to see more instances where we get to fight with other allies on the map.
Oh yeah, I love
think
that.
When that happens, it's so cool, but
Yeah.
it's so hard to make it happen. Like, it's nigh on impossible to actually make it happen, because trying to organize it unless 2 enemy armies are nearby, and like if you've got an ally and there's an enemy nearby, you can join in, but they'll probably run away anyway. Or you've got to hope that your ally decides to come and join you in a fight, which they almost never do. They'll almost always just run away. So I think there should be more instances where that kind of stuff happens, but I don't know how you do that with the current setup.
Wouldn't that be cool though if, just like Sotek said, that you would have no allegiance to actually recruit their units, but instead you could use that allegiance to just summon that army into a fight. It would take 20 turns, something like that, to actually gather that, but then you could be like, now's the time, brothers in arms, come join me, and they just come in there from the side or something. It would be pretty
Even if you
goddamn
could just
cool.
like pick them up like the old horde armies from the Greenskin, just like you'll come with me, buddy, and just grab them by the scruff of the neck and force them into the fight.
Yeah, if you could force an army to like pin on you, just follow you around, like you are now following me, that is your only objective. That would possibly work.
Speaking of fighting with allies, I think the seduction mechanic could also do with a. Because at the minute, it's just a bit like, okay, we're about to fight. We're ready. Actually, you over there? Do you want to come fight with us? We're giving out Pop-Tarts afterwards. And then like a unit of archers just...
Is that what the kids are calling it these days?
Yeah. Unit of archers just like skulls across, or an eagle. And it's just like, well, that's kind of lame.
That's the funniest bit though. Like when an eagle, somebody's just holding up a goat.
I had it happen to a unit of Graveguard the other day.
Oh, yeah.
A unit of Graveguard abandoned me, dressed in a hot pink, and were fighting against me. I was like, you bastards.
Zombies also hilarious.
It's some like undead or like unit that's not really capable of independent thought, and they switch sides anyway, and you're like,
come on.
You're literally held together with my magic. You're nothing without me. Yeah, I feel like the seduction mechanic, it'd be so much... I mean, I don't know how you could make this work, but it'd be so much more cool if it happened during a battle. And it's like, if you fought, or I have 2 options. During a battle, and you somehow like convince a unit that's like leadership is low enough, and you're like, you work for me, and they get all their leadership back. Like, we're 5 for Slaanesh now. That'd be kind of neat. Or...
I think as the player, I think I would in general find that mechanic really, really interesting, especially because it could make it where if you're fighting against it, you don't necessarily know which units are going to betray you.
Yeah.
Which would be really fun. My only worry would be that for like the more casual community, like if they were the player, they'd love it, but if it was being used against them, they'd be like, I hate this system. How dare my units betray them?
And
my most expensive units.
Skilly shoot. Yeah, you have to balance it somehow, because like if your lord like gets to a low leadership just by being near a terror unit, and then she's like, oh, well, come over here. Yeah, you'd have to balance it somehow. But my other option is if you just have it so like high levels of corruption, give it so it's an increasing % chance that one of their units will defect, and it just leaves their army, and then similar to the Recaf, like you said, it's just in a little pool, and you can just pull that unit out.
You want
I was just gonna say that.
Actually interesting corruption mechanics, you're gonna need to back up.
All right, so my bad, pimp.
I was actually just going to suggest that just before the battle, they would just leave. They wouldn't be in that army, and they would just be in your little pool of seduction victims or whatever you want to call it.
The seduced. It's just a little...
I mean, that could work well as they just pop up in like a mercenary type tab.
Yeah. That's probably the easy way to do it. The one in battle, while more hilarious, would be so frustrating to play against. You are so right, but nah. We can dream.
It's already pretty frustrating.
I mean, yeah.
And then you're just like in the middle of your formation, you're like, God damn it.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know about most people, but I know when I use the seduction mechanic, I tend to use it less as I want this unit on my side, and more of I just don't want to deal with that unit. So I'm just gonna
I just get rid of like archers and stuff on my ass.
Yeah, one less archer units. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly.
You got a Hellstorm rocket battery? Not anymore, you don't.
Yeah. Because Enkari is running there. It's like Serpentine Enkari and it's Serpentine.
Yeah, I've never gotten bored of the whole Slaanesh thing. I think making them a bit more like super reliant on their vassals and their seduction rather than just being a normal faction that's like, oh well, you want to be my vassal, you want to be seduced. Just make them a bit more interesting.
No, I do agree. I actually really like the idea of I mean, you mentioned the corruption thing. It'd be super nice if high corruption actually had battlefield effects beyond just like you have a higher casualty replenishment rate, which is like, okay, I do appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. I do like that. But, you know, it'd be nice if it actually had far more impactful things. Like the biggest one I can think of that still is not that interesting, but it is very, very impactful, being the Skaven one, where if you have high enough Skaven corruption, you get way more uses of the Menace Below, which is, I hate that ability, and I will hate it till the day I die.
Yep.
But, because, like, God forbid I bring one piece of artillery.
Yeah.
It's just going to get menaced the entire battle.
I hate army abilities when the AI is using them. And I know that's hypocritical, but I just like whenever I'm fighting Chaos Dwarves, I'm always like, right, what's the time? 45 seconds into the battle, right? Slow. We're waiting. Right there, they're gonna drop the nuke there. Right, let's move that unit. Right, waiting for it. There's the other one. Right, move that one. And it's the same with the Skaven. It's all right. I'm just gonna wait around until they run out of menace from below, I guess.
There's no battle against a Skaven I've ever enjoyed. It always sucks.
Yeah. Nothing better than, you don't like Menace Below and Warp Lightning, which is like the one spell that AI knows how to use really well.
Being ambushed relentlessly
all the time. But yeah, I've lost so many artillery units just from having everyone else being somewhere else.
I forget every time. Every time.
Yeah. The worst for me is I cannot tell you how many times I fight Ikit Claw, and I haven't fought him in forever, and so I don't think it, and all of a sudden you hear that sound, you go, oh no.
Yeah. And sometimes I play in 3 times the speed just because it's supposed to be an easy battle, and then I just go, where's those 3 units? Face. I see that little smoking crater.
Why is that crater there with all those bodies lying in it?
Surely those aren't my bodies over there. No. That could be cool if you could have higher corruption means cheaper seduction as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that shouldn't be that hard to implement by any means of the imagination.
I don't think so either. I mean, I don't program, but I can imagine it would be hard.
I mean, yeah, just doing stuff like that would be just fun little interactions. Like if you have high enough Zinch corruption, there's like a higher miscast chance for wizards. So like wizards are going to take more damage. Or, you know, higher corn corruption, maybe
you run faster, your own units, because you just want to be in the fights.
Yeah, corn units could move faster. It could be like I wonder if they could do like reverse spell mastery almost, or like making actually spells less powerful.
I was just thinking getting vigor back would probably be more thematic. Like feel invigorated by the corruption around. It's like, wow, that's a lot of reds. I really want to fight.
A part of me almost likes the idea of like giving units have a percentage chance, non-corn units have a percentage chance to gain like the enrage passive. But I know players would be like, I would rather pull out my own teeth than have units that do not have enrage gain enrage, even if there are things I could do to prevent it. No.
Well, I think every RTS player loves is just losing control of your units.
You know, in that battle, I lost my Graveguard to being sexed. It was a choke point battle against Nakai, and he's got that ability, and I can't remember what it's called, but whatever it is, it causes endless enrage as long as the unit has over 50% of its hit points and over 50% leadership. So you can imagine Nakari in a small choke point means that basically I was sat there going, well, I guess I'm not using my units for the moment because everyone's just enraged forever until they've taken enough damage. And eventually my general did, and I was like, well, I better use the healing potion then. Oh, he's back to being enraged. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I feel like I am that one guy that's like, oh, I don't have to worry about microing this unit and it's just gonna fight on its own. Great, awesome. I don't have to deal with
I'm the same. I'm like, oh, I wish I could just tell these doggos just chase this unit forever.
Can you hear
that?
Like
when I'm playing, about it. Like it's like, oh, my Manticore's just chasing that fleeing unit off. Awesome. I don't have to worry about him. He's doing his job.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than him stopping halfway there and then the unit of archers he's chasing like rallying and turning around, just taking pot shots at him for the next 30
Oh
seconds.
yeah, you
before I've
turn and go,
noticed.
oh yeah, that 300 cost unit of 20 guys remaining just killed my 800 cost Vanacore because he just sat there and got shot. Great.
I mean, corruption in general needs an overhaul because they nerfed it as well in one of the last patches, and that was pretty sad. Vampire corruption also needs a little bit more pizzazz or something at least.
Yeah.
Just to like increase healing cap. That'd be such a ridiculously overpowered change where it'd make them so much more engaging.
Yeah,
to
I guess they
corruption.
would. But yeah, I really like that vampire corruption would just hurt people because the land just becomes so freaking hostile towards people. Like dead trees would just try to grab at people, and monsters would just be roaming around more.
Yeah, I mean the thing that I would love for like vampiric corruption, and you could do this for all the corruption types actually, pretty easily, would be like if you get to a really high threshold, offering armies that are sympathetic to that corruption. So like Nurgle with Nurgle, vampires with vampiric, etc. Would be like a summon ability where, you know, kind of like the Menace Below, but where the Skaven get a lot more. Like if you're playing vampire counts, oh, you have really high vampiric corruption. Well, that means the dead are not resting easy in their graves. So they get like 3 uses of a raised dead army ability where they choose an area on the battlefield and skeletons get up and start attacking people because the dead aren't resting easy because you've let the vampiric corruption get out of control. Which the vampire players would love because they're like, haha, look at that artillery that I'm now coming up right underneath.
Who's slow now?
Yeah, and you can do the same thing with demons, where they summon just a little demon unit somewhere on the battlefield because there's so much corruption that like the fabric of reality is breaking down, and there are demons just kind of popping out all over the place. The Chaos Dwarves would be like the only faction I can think of that would not really make sense for, but they also use regular Chaos Undivided for reasons.
Yeah, that corruption's really kind of capitalism, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really like industrial corruption, not really like spiritual corruption. But CA was like, no, we don't want more of these.
There's room down there. You can fit one more.
They could.
That's all I got.
Well,
Okay, so I will say that, I mean, there are some other things that when it comes to making factions more lore accurate, there's the idea, I think a lot of people, vampire counts could definitely use a relook.
Yeah.
As far as, like, I do not hate blood kisses as a concept. What I do hate is that they're only used to wake up ancient vampires that then go into like your lord pool, and then once you have them all, like, that's it, you're done. Like when I look at blood kisses, the first thing that came to my mind was not, oh, I should be awakening ancient vampires. To me, it's, oh, I could use this to manipulate factions. Like I am turning people into thralls or swains, so they are like head over heels in love with me. Of that, like the fact that you can't force vassalize humans as vampires to me is odd.
Have you played Have you played the Legions of Nagash mod?
I have not.
That adds
it's really
Neferata,
good.
and she has that exact mechanic.
Oh, that'd be swell.
It's
That would
just
be
like
very swell.
it's just like the Nakaria one, but blood kisses.
and for people who don't know, in Warhammer, if you get your blood drank by a vampire, it's like a narcotic effect. You get basically hooked on heroin, but it's a person.
Oh, yeah,
So they
big
get, they just get, they will do anything that you want unless they get an intervention where everybody's just like, Jerry, we're actually very worried for you here.
It's not a phase. I love her.
You're looking at the mod page, Monster. I can see a reflection behind you.
Yeah, I can also see. I was like, no, wait, I should.
He's as well. I can see the squares.
Yeah, but I mean that would be really good. I mean, I'm still really pulling for so hard for us to get a Champions of Chaos style DLC for vampires versus the other bloodlines. That way they can have actual mechanics where it's like
Just anything.
There's differences between them of like they gotta give Vlad and Isabella like that electric count system, but they are able to put in their own like little necromancer and vampire buddies instead of, you know, typical electric counts.
I mean, my like tinfoil hat theory has always been that they're just waiting for like the permission from James Workshop to be able to put in like end time stuff, so we can have like end times Nagash and stuff like that, because everything has just been built up for end times anyway. Because Vlad looks like he does in the end times when he gets the new body and everything like that as well, doesn't he? Because he used to be handsome and everything like that before that, but then his new body just looks like that.
Well, so ugly Vlad is more of like when you're dealing with vampires, when they become a vampire, they're a corpse, which can kind of like rot and become hideous and ugly, which is what you see with necrarchs. Because vampires, if they want to look pretty, like a lot of von Karsteins and Lamians do, they have to put effort into it. They have to like put a certain amount of magical effort and focus into maintaining an appearance. But when they get particularly angry, they're able to drop that guise, that illusion, and take on what they really look like, which is often a horrific corpse-like thing. So when Vlad was very, very handsome looking because he maintained an appearance, but when he declares war on the Empire that night in Castle Drakenhof, when he does the big ritual and he resurrects pretty much all of the dead of Sylvania.
Yeah, I actually had a bit about that one as well.
Yeah, that's when he becomes that really ugly form, because he stops putting any effort into looking like a handsome, gorgeous lord of the night, instead becoming, he's missing the nose and his mouth can open really wide and he's really nice, spooky looking. But like that's his original tabletop model from like when he was around back in like hundreds of years ago. As opposed to like any end times thing. It's just that when he shows back up in the end times, he also doesn't bother with any of the hiding what he actually is.
Oh, yeah, because in the end times books, he just gets a new body, which he has to like get accustomed to and everything like that. And he's basically described as essentially as is in game. And then he's also in the trailer for Harold Hammerstorm. He's also like facing Harold Hammerstorm, which he also does in the end times. I always just assume that they're building up with all that because Valkia will end up in Naggaroth adjacent. Festus will be.
I do agree. There's a lot of end times references, and although they haven't 100% confirmed it, Scar Bloodwrath is literally only purely an end times character who's coming for Khorne.
But they did explain that how they can right now use things, I think, who are or I think at least that's things that exist in only end times books can be there because if they existed for other reasons than the end times, like Silvering Guards, for example, and things like that. But things that exist because the end times, like Storm Fiends and things like that, aren't allowed to be used.
I would respectfully call that a BS explanation, only because those Khorne things literally only exist for the end times, and then Age of Sigmar, because they showed up for Age of Sigmar.
I mean, it like I said, it's only being written in, like the Silvering Guards or Bugman stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, they've always been there, kind of thing. That's how they explained it, at least in some meeting long ago, the last program.
I suspect that I really personally feel very strongly that the new Khorne DLC is the breaking of the dam of that, instead of it, because like the Silvering Guard. Yeah, because the Silvering Guard are very much like, they weren't an actual end times unit. They're just mentioned in the end times. Like they didn't have models or anything like that. They're just they were more like a regiment of renown that CH just kind of made into a unit, which they've done before, like Bugman's Rangers were the same thing. But with Khorne, we're getting like actual, these guys had minis end times, and they were only for the end time stuff, which is new. They have not done that before.
Which ones were you talking about now?
So Scar Bloodwrath, and with him came the box unit, which was the Skull Reapers and the Wrathmongers, which are basically like the generic version of him, which I suspect are going to be two of the Khorne units. And then that would also include the Putrid Blight Kings from Nurgle, because they came in the Glotkin book, and that comes with Glotkin, the big Chungus himself. Yeah. And then the Magath Lords, which were 3 characters that you could build from the same kit, where they ride on these things called Pox Maggots, which are kind of like big. Imagine if you took like a great ape and made it like 3 times bigger, and it was part maggot. So like it had like the head of a maggot or a leech, but it has that big simian body, and it's like huge. and there's a guy riding on the back of it. That's what a Magath rider is. And then from Nagash, we got Nagash, the new Nagash mini, and he got the Morghast, which the Morghast like an angel, but it's made out of bones and like flesh bits. And there's 2 versions of that, which one has a halberd and the other has dual weapons.
Man, I'm hoping for those at some points.
I love the
But-
Morghast.
But like Scar Bloodwrath, for example, he doesn't show up because he's not made for the end times. But Nagash, for example, and the Morghasts are. So that would be the difference. Because
I think it would depend on what. So the models and the characters were
Yeah,
made for the.
no. I'm talking about like the lore reason why they exist. Like Stormfiends wouldn't exist without the end times happening. Nagash wouldn't be resurrected without the end times happening. Things like that.
Yeah,
Like lore reasons for that.
yeah. I have trouble accepting that because I mean, Putrid Blight Kings would fall under that because they exist no matter what. The Khorne guys, their whole thing is that they won't come down from the north until the end times. They have to be like.
Oh
they're
yeah,
basically
that would definitely
locked
be
up.
well. I mean, like they're still around, I guess, in this explanation, but they wouldn't come down. Yeah, I mean that's tricky territory, I suppose. But that's how they explained this at some point anyway. So I'm not gonna. We don't even know actually if that's if the person who told us that is fully got told the right stuff either.
It
Plus,
does. It does kind of sound like something Games Workshop would say, doesn't it? To me.
Well,
It
yeah,
sounds
'cause, I mean, considering this is the same Games Workshop that's like, Zongors can't have beaks because AOS, even though the Pestigors and the Khorngors we got are the exact same models from like old 5th and 6th edition magazines, and that Zongor from that same time period had beaks. But Games Workshop was
Yeah.
like, oh, no.
Wait, where were we before this? About
Okay.
we were talking about Morghasts,
We were talking about,
end
Oh my
times.
yes, I
Um,
don't remember where we got off on, that was a tangent. But I don't remember how we got there.
Vampires.
Yeah,
I
something to do
can-
with vampires. Oh, that's what it was. We were talking about vampires, and then that hopefully vampires might get an expansion that would include Nagash, which means end time
Yeah.
stuff. But back to mechanic stuff. I will say, High Elves would really love to see High Elves get a new whack at like their influence system, which is really weird right now. The intrigue system where they have like a worse version of Zinch, where Zinch can just tell factions to do something. Like he's like, you are at peace, you are at war. The elves are like, we would like you to consider disliking this faction more than you do.
Yeah, it's a weird system as well because you usually like save up until you have 600 or something like that of it, and you spend 400, and then maybe you can federate them.
Yeah, it really should just be fixed where it's like Karl Franz and Zinch, where it's just if you have enough influence, you tell someone to do something instead of
Yeah,
making
I think
them like you
SFO makes that as well. So you have the normal influence system, but then you also have the menu where you can also use the influence to do stuff as well, which I like personally. But Neferata should definitely have something like that as well as the
Oh, yeah,
influencing
100%.
system. Like if she doesn't have anything like that when she comes around, like it's gonna be just
CA goofed.
that's just
Yeah, they will have goofed if that's the case.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the thing with like the Empire, especially after the Thrones of Decay DLC, is they're kind of the gold standard of like every legendary lord has a gimmick, like has a mechanic.
Yeah.
Which is something that I hope one day can exist for the rest of the game. Though it does feel like a lot sometimes when considering that some factions that's just not a thing. For example,
Yeah.
like all the characters in the faction are pretty much the carbon copies.
I mean, we mentioned this before, but Thrones of Decay was a really big thing for just mechanics and generic legendary lords because CA has said in the past that they want like Tyrion and Teclis and Karl Franz, stuff like that, to be just basic factions. Because if somebody new came into the game, they would just be able to play like the basic faction of High Elves or basic of Empire and stuff like that. Like that's what was their reasoning when asked about this. And now with the latest DLC, they just reworked those as well. So they also got mechanics, and that's literally one of the best news we could have gotten. That they just changed their mind about that, which is good because they did restructure a lot and decided to listen to the players.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
I
it
never,
said oh, go ahead.
I never really liked the sort of we want a baseline faction. I think that was always felt quite lazy to me because basically you just got one guy who's like worse than everyone else because he's your baseline.
Yeah, well, it's like, hey guys, that's what the tutorial's for. Y'all put a tutorial in this game.
Yeah, I mean, like we are told a thing, and sometimes that's the PR answer of what they decided to tell us instead of the actual reasoning. That's just how it is when you work with these companies, I suppose.
Yep, very true.
But the books of Nagash should really be reworked as well for Manfred, because like when he's standing there on the battlements of the castle and like raising all the dead in the land, Vlad, and stuff like that, he just has one page of a book that he's found, and then he raises like everyone basically. I accept that it's a very, very important page that he's found, and he starts the Vampire Wars, but dang, we should really make like the books that Manfred is finding just way, way better than what they are. They are atrocious right now. Like I never even find them. I just win the campaign without them. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, they had this weird thing where like they kept them humble because the Tomb Kings was rather humble, but the Tomb Kings, so all of it is back from the Vortex version, the Vortex campaign version, where it was much easier to get to where all of them were, and they were the single victory condition. So you were motivated to get them no matter what. So the power was based around that. Whereas now it's a completely different setup, and the world is so much bigger. And so the books are like so far away, and their abilities need to be worth the effort, despite the fact that they're not required. And they're not necessary, and they're just so, it's such a pain in the butt to get them. Like, oh, I got a book of Nagash that shows me where all of the gold, gem, and iron is. Great.
Right. Now I can trade with none because no one wants to be my friend because I'm vampires.
In fairness, like, there are a couple of books that are really good.
There's
two which have good effects. Those are the ones you start the campaign and go, I really hope they're the ones that are close to me.
Hey, cool. Those two can stay pretty much the same, but like the other, 6 need to change. Yeah, because I do agree. Because in the lore, if you have one book of Nagash, you are big time scary. Like you are terrifying, big time scary. So that definitely
you have to see all the gold in the world. Imagine.
Yeah. Which, like, man, you don't interact with it anyway. You just know where it is.
Can you imagine being like, oh, there's a guy over there. He's got the book of Nagash. He's going to be. Which book is it? It's the gold one. Is it? Oh, he's fine. Don't worry about him.
No,
completely fucking useless.
I mean, you see him at the top of the castle, like.
We can invest better stocks
just
in
looks back
that settlement over there. they're gonna hit a vein soon. I can see it.
I mean, imagine if they would tie in corruption with some books, and then they would also make it so that zombies actually work like the like dark magic batteries they are in the lore. Because necromancy in the lore is basically just you have a corpse and you use and you just put in as much dark magic as you can into it after you resurrect it, so it just moves along. Like the tithe, for example, that Helman Gorst creates, is just really full of dark magic, so it's just more sturdy and can go on for longer, essentially.
It'd be cool to have a life siphoning mechanic for the vampire counts. Now that you mentioned that, like I'd take a life from these zombies and give it to whatever.
But imagine like the power of darkness spell for dark elves.
Yeah, but
like an ability.
That'd be hard to target.
But imagine if you had vampires or necromancers that would just have a channeling stance on the battlefield. So they would just have that old buff that would be map wide and just heal everybody continuously. And the more corruption you had, the better like battle healing cap you would have as well. So you would be really incentivized to go and snipe those necromancers. And if you manage to do that, you would have a really big like leadership penalty on it as well. So you like instead of -7 or whatever it is when Lord or Hero dies, you would have -20 maybe or something. But otherwise, they would just keep on healing and just powering your undead horde as well. Could be cool. Or that could be a nightmare as well if they only have a bunch of Vargulfs. I don't know, but that's up to them.
Yeah, for me, that kind of falls under like when you look at certain characters of something Warhammer 3 has been relatively good about is that when they've been adding in new generic lords and generic heroes, they tend to have like an interesting purpose. Like they have interesting skill trees and they can actually spec into certain plays. where it's like, although he was not great to start with, like I really like the Lord Magistrate for Cathay, being that it's like, oh wow, this is like an actually interesting support character who he's not a fighter, but he's really really good at supporting my army. Versus like, you know, taking like a caster lord, which has the obvious value of that, and then the fighter lord. And when I look at the vampire counts, like when it comes to having a character that should be like god tier support, should be your master necromancer, of a guy who he's not supposed to be in there fighting, and although he's magic-y, he's not supposed to be as powerful magic-y as like a necrotic vampire, but he should be like support on steroids, like someone who's literally just healing and regenerating your army like crazy without relying on magic to do so.
Yeah, he shouldn't be outshone by every single Mortis engine around there.
Yeah, no.
Man, every time I see I choose lords for Cathay, I always go like, stop, hammer time. Every time.
The Celestial Generals are very good.
They are. I'm infected by that. I want to have like I want to have every army has to have a new character that I haven't used yet. It has to have a new type of lord.
I mean, I do think. I mean, as much as we're talking about the mechanics and stuff, I do think that Total War, Warhammer, but also Total War in general, has come quite a far way. I mean, if you think back to like Warhammer 1, when I believe I'm right in saying that Kazrak's kind of lord ability was something like he gave a 4% off the recruitment cost of Vestigors.
Yeah, something like that. I think they buffed it to 30% recruitment minus or something. But it was pretty bad, yeah. 100%.
So I mean, comparatively, I would say that pretty much all the factions are at least better than that.
Things are coming along. Yeah,
for sure. Not like the Von Karstein Palace, which is still pretty much shit for. I think it's cheaper now though. It's like 9,000 instead of 16,000, but it's still just
I was
5 local corruption or something. And
there's so many terrible landmarks in the game. There's so many landmarks where you look at it and go, I don't think I could be bothered to build that.
Landmarks are so hit or miss because especially a lot of the older ones, because they're so expensive and they take so many turns to build, and the reward is just garbage.
Yeah, but listen to this though. What if vampires would have landmarks in a lot of like major cities? Not every single one, but like a lot of major ones. And there they would go and just find like a graveyard of something, and then that would also be filled up in a little mercenary pool, or a separate one for raised dead. Now maybe it would be a little bit weird with how the actual logistics of 1,000 bodies would happen across the map, but maybe somebody would just bring along a really big cart or something like this, and you could just bring along stuff from you get some special units for maybe not dwarves because they're too hard to resurrect, but who knows, why not? But you would get like a bunch of human troops that are necromanced. You would get a bunch of elven ones. Stuff like that. That would just be cool to have some special regiment renowned like dudes from landmarks, basically.
Yeah, I mean that'd always be nice of like campaign specific. I mean everybody likes campaign specific units, and I think one of the dreams that vampire count players have that I don't know if CA will ever be bothered to do this, but that idea of like having undead of the different races, like, oh, I've got an undead zombie lizardman unit, I've got an undead zombie ogre unit, I've got an undead zombie dwarves and zombie elves and zombie empire and Bretonia, and they like have a fun unique little appearance and gimmick. I don't know if they'll ever do it, but it would be cool.
Then Nagash comes along. I really hope they have like flesh sculpting or whatever they call it for him. So he's just like, I don't know. It used to be dwarfs and human stuff like that. Now it's giant scorpion man with I don't know. I think he has laser eyes now. Look at that thing. Oh yeah, that's laser eyes. Yeah, that's what he has now.
You want to give him Throt's mechanic of like molding different.
That would be so cool.
I always thought what would be fun was if the Chaos factions, I think all of them apart from Demons, like the Mortal Chaos factions, because you occasionally get those marks of chaos, which are basically banners, and they're mostly exclusively rubbish. But what if you got those like randomly, quite rarely from fighting battles or something, and you could just like slap them on any unit. So you could be like, oh, this one's going to give the unit +8 melee attack, right? I'll put that on that unit. Oh look, this one gives them poison attacks. I'll also put that on that unit. And there was, in the same way that Throt has that thing where the more mutations you put on a unit, the more likely it is to become unstable. Basically, the more chaos gifts you dump on a unit, the higher the chance it just turns into a unit chaos spawn.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just chaos mutations. Yeah, that'd be super fun.
That would
Which
actually
would
be really
make
cool. Yeah.
a lot of sense. Like and I don't think it'd be that bad. Like it's like, yeah, maybe it's like a slightly less complex tree to choose from.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that would be super duper fun. Because that would be hilarious. Of like you have a unit that you just like, oh yeah, I'll just dump a little more and then just pop chaos spawn.
Ah.
Just a little bit more, Nah, chaos spawn. All of them. That would
Which
also
is
be cool
fun.
on like Norscan chieftains as well. You would just mutate them a little bit, and then they would just be like a huge Forsaken brute instead.
That's a skill tree I want to see redone so bad. I hate the Norscan chieftain so much right now.
Yeah.
Like, bro
Oh.
does not even have a melee tree. They just
No.
have the god trees that are. It's like, why can't I have? I should get both. Why don't I get both?
They're so bad. I don't understand
Terrible.
why they did
Don't
that.
they run out of stuff as well to like put in skill points into? Not exactly like the heroes, but you kind of just go like, oh, I guess I'll have masonry or
Oh
something.
yeah, no, absolutely cool because you can only put like 6 to 8 into your melee tree and then you're done.
See, maybe when it's no one
Right.
plays Norsca long enough anyways, fill out those 6 skill points.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the good is like, hey, the Norscan chieftain, you can take any unit because you're gonna fill up the whole red tree because you got nothing else to spend points on.
Oh man, Norsca.
Poor Norsca. God, I really hope I could easily if like the types of DLCs we get now, where you get like the like legendary lord, legendary hero, 1 generic lord, 1 generic hero, 5 units. I could do that twice for Norsca. Easy, wouldn't even break a sweat.
But which is your premier pick for Norscan Lord?
I am full on Team Muna Mim, who's the Famir matriarch character that Cubicle 7 created for Games Workshop, because I want a big casting one-eyed monster lady.
That would be cool. My pick was Lord Mortkin, but I mean that one sounds cooler, honestly.
Mortkin is fun. Mortkin, like, if they could really find a way to do a mechanic where he's able to, like, does he go more of following the ancestral route of following like the ancestry of Norsca, where he kind of denies the dark gods versus leaning more into them, would make him really cool because that's the coolest part of his story, is that when he takes off his helmet, he's like, nah, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing this anymore.
I mean, he's my idea was always that he would try to like guess the tribes of the north, essentially, and he would just go and conquer and vassalize every single one of them, because they do have like a lot of really cool lore by the tribes that are never ever used, because essentially the only thing we see is just corn tribes. There's always tribes for literally everything. Like the dudes who just dress in little like bondage straps and are really fast for Slaanesh, and there's Nurgle tribes and Scenes tribes.
Yeah.
Hold on, I got everything written down here. And then there's also the tribe that has catapults with witch fire and stuff like that. Those are really cool. The Dolgan, are they called? And then there's also Lord Humongous of they have like demon infused horses and have warpstone arrows and stuff like that.
There
Hold
is
on.
Yeah, between like White Dwarf and several of the like summer campaigns, there's so much stuff that can be done with like Tribes of Chaos. It's just bonkers. Like it gets really silly really fast.
Also Greylings that have the Weirkins and a bunch of stuff like that. But Dreaded Woo, for example, those are cool because that's actually they're on the map, but they're just a Norscan tribe. But in the lore, they're like Chaos Cathayans. They have like the jade armor, but it's all painted black, and they're really really cool.
Sounds a bit like the name has completely gone out of my brain, but the Three Kingdoms, the Nan Man, that's it. You know how the different tribes gave you access to different units?
Yeah.
Just do that with Norsca. Just
Yeah, that's exactly what I would love to have with them. You just vassalize and you get like access to new things because all of them have something really, really cool.
Yeah, well, Norsca was always such a silly thing because it really should have been Tribes of Chaos, not just Norsca, because Norsca is like a really particular area, being like the actual like continent, or not continent, but like country.
Yeah,
I guess.
yes, landmass.
Because like I am definitely on team like I would love Sail the Faithless as a Norscan legendary lore, because like dude's a big shaman character, he rides a chaos war mammoth, like he's perfect for Norsca, even though he's like technically not Norscan because he's from the is he Dolgan, but he's like from a different tribe that's actually more akin to like the Kurgan, which are like a whole different ethnicity. But
I mean, the Kurgans are like a umbrella term for a ton of different tribes. But
pretty much everyone falls under like you're either Norscan, you're Kurgan, or you're Hung, and everyone falls under those three branches. But within each of those branches, there's like hundreds of little tribes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was the Hmong that have the steeds that are possessed by literal demons, and it's they were led by Lord Humongous on a chariot.
Yep. Good old Games Workshop trying their hardest with those names.
Yeah, definitely. It's the same dude who want to go fast from the Mad Max movie. Lord Humongous. But they should definitely do stuff like that for Norsca. There's so much stuff you can do with Norsca as well that could make them fun, but we'll see when that ever happens.
The thing is, I think they want to keep doing stuff for Total War Warhammer, because let's face it, at the moment it's the only thing they've got going for them. So until they can get another game out,
only active.
It's their only active title. So I mean, obviously they must be working on something in the background, but at the moment, like they want to put out as much stuff as possible, right?
Yeah. So, but now here's the important question, though. I got a couple more factions that we can talk about, and I'm sure we're going to have some discussions about them. But how are we feeling with time and things like this?
I mean, we've got almost 2 hours. That's a sizable chunk right there, I would say. I mean, we could obviously have this sort of discussion literally like just looking at my factions list like 20 other times, because everyone needs something, really.
True.
So true.
So we can definitely we can. I think the three of us have talked about just doing this as a series, just reworks. So we can definitely do another episode of this if people enjoy it for certain.
Yeah, I didn't do that much homework, to be honest.
Yeah, me neither. I literally.
I have two more factions, but that's we can always say that to another time as well if we want to. I just felt like, I can go on for forever, but can you?
I don't have the stamina anymore.
Well, it is late for you. You are very tall.
I am tall, and as such, it is late. Indeed.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
It's not how that's determined now. Awesome.
Tell you what,
Monsters Abound is about 8 foot tall. It's actually crazy. I met him in London years ago, and I as I understand, he's only gotten taller.
That's it. I just as time goes on, it's just as well actually, because at the moment my 5-year-old refuses to sleep in his bed, but we gave him a neat one he has to climb up into. So when he kicks me out of my bed, the only place I've got to go is his bed. So I have to sort of lever myself into it, which is very hard, and that bed's not that comfortable, but
oh, the joys of parenthood.
All right, should we do one more Lord and then we round off?
Sure.
Do that. Let's do that.
Go for it.
Malus Darkblade. I love the books, and god damn it, I hate him in the game. He does nothing special anymore. They've nerfed him to the ground anyway. He used to be, the weird dude who could be a one-man army. He can probably still do that, but it's way, way harsher. This is my proposal, because as I understand this, and from these 2 hours that we've now been talking, nobody really likes conquer X amount of settlements. What he should do is just have set amounts of this artifact's what you need to go and collect. You find, I don't know, 5 or 7 or 8 or something like that. And then you travel north and you unleash Sarkhan. You give those away to Sarkhan later on, or you fight Sarkhan, and you get to choose there in the in that battle if you want him to join you, or if he's gonna, go away and hopefully not take your soul. But either way, you sail across the world, maybe even in a Black Ark, and you just fight stuff for really cool artifacts, because that's exactly what the books are. He's like, oh, I'm gonna have to go get that one, and then eventually he gets beaten down, and he's like, through haste, everything is possible, but now it's nappy time. Drinks his potion, wakes up covered in blood, and goes, huzzah! Once again, I've done it.
Yeah,
You always wanted to be a Horde faction.
Yeah, something like that at least.
yeah. Malus always was a weird, like, I did find it strange that they didn't lean into the fact that he's literally every book is him chasing down a different MacGuffin. With his overall goal being, once I have acquired the full set of Exodia, I'll free myself from this prison, and then it blows up in his face in typical Warhammer fashion.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely agree that would be a good thing for him, of that, like, he technically has a mechanic and that there is something going on.
Yeah.
But once again, kind of like what I talked about earlier, it doesn't incentivize him to do anything other than just conquer everything on the map and paint it one color, which is a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Whispers of Sarkhan aren't that interesting. It's always like, hey, you want this keychain? Keychain. I think it's Mickey Mouse. No, it's not that special. No? All right, I'll be back later. More things. You're like, all right, well,
Tempting.
okay.
Yeah, moving on. Yeah.
I feel like temptations from a demon should really be like tempting and demonic, rather than attack this settlement for 50 gold.
Because the premise of the books is that he, in pure desperation, he has to have like a really good haul of cool stuff to show his dad, because the Dark Elves are a strict meritocracy. If you're born well, that means you're gonna have a pretty good head start. But if you don't show like what you can do, you're still gonna be trash, and you're gonna become a slave or something like that. So he's desperate. He's trying, like, his raid has failed. He seeks himself north, and there he finds a really cool artifact. But bada boom, bada bing, a demon is like, haha, got your soul. And then he says, you have to find me these artifacts, and if you do that, you get your soul back. And then it's just books of him trying to find that soul, essentially. Well, find those artifacts to get his soul back. But instead, it's just an empire builder, and he's supposed to be good as cavalry. But super fun.
I hate that DLC.
Yeah, same.
Everything about that DLC, I hate it so much.
I always say there's one good thing about it, and that's the poison wind mortars.
They are cracked.
I enjoyed the units, but like the fact that they had that matchup, like that we were in Warhammer 2, and they're like, I was so excited for them being like, oh, they're gonna do a Warhammer 2 faction versus a Warhammer 4 faction 4 times. That's so exciting. And then they got over there and they were like, Dark Elves versus Skaven, and we're done. It's like, what? Where's my Skaven versus Dwarfs? Where are we going? What's happening?
They always had the weirdest things as well. It's like Marcus Wolfhard versus Nakai, and you're sitting there like,
it was a choice. It was a choice.
Because now you're allowed to obviously correct me here, because that's why we invited you when you so gracefully accepted as well. But Marcus Wolfhard in the lore, basically, after he managed to kill something really cool that like get revenge, even Karl Franz goes there and just goes like, wow, you're so goddamn cool. You can have a mansion, you get a lord title, everything is yours. Marcus Wolfhard, you will be the savior and hero of this region. He's like, I want to hunt. And he's like, are you sure you can have a life leader? I want to hunt. All right, we'll have this amber bow, and then he is like, and then he just goes off into the Drakkenwald and just hunts there forever.
Yeah, so Wolfhard, essentially, yes. Wolfhard gets given the or promoted to the position of Hunts Marshal. So he's like, his job is to basically run around the Empire killing big nasty monsters. which he does in a like. There's a couple stories about him hunting down and killing some like real ugly things. Like he kills a really big. He lands the killing shot on this horrible, horrible big nasty dragon that crashes and dies in a mountain range near Reichland. But yeah, like that's his whole thing is that he hates the beasts of the wilds in the Empire so much for like wiping out his village and killing his family and everything that he's purely dedicated his life to just hunting them all down and killing them with his bow, which is cool, great, awesome. And then they're like, yeah, he's going to Lustria, and it's like, what?
Then he sits there in his felt hats, like
Yeah,
warm
his
clothes.
cold
like,
weather clothes.
I always thought from the lore that it was a shame they didn't get Nick Offerman as Ron Swanson to like voice him, because he feels like a very Ron Swanson.
Once again, Matt Berry. It would have been perfect.
Matt Berry should have done the Kai.
They should just do everyone. They should do a patch where he just voices everyone.
Matt Berry's Nakai. Oh.
That'll be the most popular mod.
Oh my god.
But speaking of Dark Elves, still, their Black Ark should be remade so that you also have a caravan version of them. Because Black Arks in the lore are just floating forces that go around on slave raids. I mean, I've actually talked about this one, I think, several times before. But essentially, you send out a Black Ark, and they try to get slaves from different things. And then maybe you get a little fight from in the end or something like that. But then you get items, more slaves. And the slaves should also have more uses for them. You should be able to sacrifice them before big battles to get more winds of magic, to maybe get some buffs in some ritual, things
That's
like
cool.
that.
I like that.
Because I mean, it doesn't. The Black Arks are so weird right now. It's like, oh yeah, well you can always fight coastal settlements with them. It's like, but is that really that many though? Like, is this like that good? It's just they're so weird right now, I think.
Yeah, I would love to see the spring rating of like, winter is ended. You need to send out caravans or slave raids. Especially if it was like a flip on the caravan system, where instead of it being your goal is to get to this location, once you get there, you're just like, haha, we got goodies. Of like when you get there, you fight a battle against the people you're attacking, and then you get awesome goodies. So you're kind of like building up to that big slave raid. I'd also really like to see, although it's a weird sentence to say out loud, a slave trade system between the Chaos Dwarves and the Dark Elves, of like allowing them to have that interaction of that's a resource they can use to improve diplomacy or have additional finances or whatever. But like, yeah, I love the caravan system for Cathay, it's super fun, and the Chaos Dwarves, but I would definitely like to see a version of it for Dark Elves and High Elves. But for the High Elves, it's like, but for the Dark Elves and the High Elves, instead of it mostly being over land, instead it's focused far more on being over the ocean.
Yeah, because that would also give us a little bit more stuff to do on the ocean as well. Oh yeah, look at that. That's gonna have a lot of money or rewards, stuff like that fighting. So
Yeah,
and pretty...
like my vampire pirates could actually maybe feel like actual pirates and focus on attacking things on the high seas. That'd be nice.
Yeah, because Vampire Coast was actually one I also had written down here, because they should have the like a bounty system essentially from the ogres, but it would be like, oh, this port town has like a really big they have like a bunch of cargo that you can sell or something like that. So when you get there, you do a little fight, and then you have to skedaddle really quickly, because then the popo are on you. So you sail away, and then you try to get to like the safe house or something like that, and then you just get there. They're like, oh shit, we lost them. They're on the sofa now, so we can't really get them anymore.
I think there's quite a few factions that would be better if you had the opportunity to travel further away from your little empire. Because I do think there is a problem with the fact that because your neighboring factions are more likely to declare war on you, you can get penned in. You can be at a point where I don't have enough resources to deal with all of the threats around me. So sending an army off halfway across the world just to have a jolly is an extravagance I cannot spend. And I don't know what the fix to that is. But there's so many times where I've gone, I would like to try and achieve this objective, my own little objective, but I can't do that because I'm too busy trying to fend off these 5 other factions that are gunning for me and throwing everything they've got at me.
I think it's the aversion system. Like every single Malekith campaign will always be big stuff around you, and then you're gonna fight the High Elves. Always, every single time. Just like every single Chaos Dwarf faction is fixed stuff around you, fight Grimgore. Like every single time, all of those. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I think the best way, if you wanted to have a system of like, I wish I had ways to kind of like get out of my empire and go do things while also focusing on defending it, having the ability to either have a caravan type system or summonable armies that don't have upkeep, that like they degrade over time, but they're able to go and accomplish a goal before they die off, is probably the best way to tackle that, which, to be fair, a lot of the factions in the game have those now. But a lot of factions also don't.
It would be cool if you could have a summonable army that you don't have to control or anything like that. Like having a little bannerman thing. Like, for example, Malekith, he could just tell one of his nobles, go and fix this for me. And they would be like, do I? All right, yeah, I guess so, I do. And then they would just go there and they would just give you the city if they succeeded.
I think this is why a lot of people like the Warriors of Chaos, because it does almost feel like that I've got these 4 settlements to worry about, but they are so deep in the Chaos Wastes, and I've got so many vassals that even if I've got 5 factions gunning for me, they're not going to make their way. Like, it's going to take a long time for them to get through all my vassals. In the meantime, I'm going to go off and have some fun over here. Bye. And there's a few factions like that. Oxshuttle's one of them, where he can just, like, as long as he takes the Southern Waste, like, he's probably fine. And then he can just go off on his little jollies all around the world. And there's a few factions I think that are a lot of fun. And they're fun because you don't get blocked down in this empire building in one section of the map forever.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, Vampire Coast should definitely be one of those that just sail around and do stuff. You should almost have invisible settlements in certain places just to like rest up or something. Because as you said, like the vampire, well, the coves that you make, you had like a ton of them, and you still couldn't support an extra army.
It's so bad.
Yeah, so because the economy for Vampire Coast is so hilariously bad. Like if you don't get the skill points and tech for post-battle loots, you get almost nothing. Like it's so crazy to me that a pirate wouldn't understand economic situation to just sell their stuff. Because a pirate is supposed to steal someone else's things and then sell that to somebody else. So they go to port towns, they sell things. I hate that with the Vampire Coast where they're like, so this hole in the ground gives us raw gold. Now, I don't understand really the value of real gold. I would like it in coins, but this is useless to us. A clump of gold? I don't know.
Yeah, they
Just
definitely
crazy.
they definitely need a pretty heavy look at like how they're supposed to function of that. To me, the Vampire Coast really feels like they should kind of be like the Warriors of Chaos in that while you can paint the map, that's not really what they should be incentivized to do. For them, it should be more about raiding and pillaging and looting and being pirates.
And digging up treasure.
And digging up treasure, yeah.
Oh man, the treasure is so bad as well.
It is terrible.
Well, like, oh yeah, your hero costs 300 a turn. 20 turns over there. Dig up a treasure, 7,000.
Yeah, it's a whole freaking thing. But that's definitely something they need to take a healthy look at, is like what is supposed to be the interaction between where do I want to have settlements, how many structures do I have to have hordes, and when I do build settlements, what are the points of the settlements? Because they're just a very bizarre, unfocused mess at the moment. And plus, where's Aminar? Like, you have this whole cool thing about getting Aminar and getting the whole point is to get this big undead Leviathan. And then Warhammer 3, they're like, yeah, no, we just didn't want to put him in the game. And it's like,
yeah, it's such a forgotten thing.
My giant Godzilla monster that once I get him, I can like just point at a port and it just gets automatically raised and I get all the money from it.
Yeah. Because like in the end, they really should be a faction that does hit and runs. They find something with a lot of money, they take that money, and then they just go somewhere else. I mean, that's what pirates are supposed to do. It's just crazy that they're in a yeah
I mean,
don't function at all that much.
You can make a lot of money from sacking, but I think they are too conservative when it comes to. I feel like they're worried about giving the player too many resources. And I think, the reason I think this is because looking at the bounties, particularly like the ones they showed off, like the rework of the bounties for the ogres, I look at that and I still go, they're still not worth it. I mean,
it's a
nice.
pittance.
Yeah, it's nice that I can now do all of them, but I don't care. I don't give a flying shit about any of these. They're worthless to me because it's probably going to cost me more to complete them than they might go, oh yeah, but you don't have to. I'm like, well, if I don't have to, what's the point in having the mechanic? You may as well just leave it blank. I mean, at least they're not insulting to me.
Yeah, I think it's when the devs are looking at it. Unfortunately, I don't think they look at it from what they should be doing is going, okay, what is the investment of having an army that is going to spend X amount of turns in upkeep to go do this thing? And then that needs to be subtracted from the reward I get. And how fast can I spend that reward on just like a singular settlement? Because like CA will look at it and go, oh, well, 15,000 is a lot of money. And it goes, actually, if I'm building an ogre camp, that maybe is going to let me upgrade every building once, depending on like certain, like it's really like I'm going to blow through that money in one turn.
Like, I mean, like with most factions, you can blow through 30,000 one turn. And it's just crazy that CA always are way too conservative when it comes to stuff like this. Way too conservative. But I think we are nearing the end of this episode. And as is tradition, we always ask ourselves, what have you been playing lately? Our esteemed guest, have you been playing any games maybe that you haven't been streaming or making videos of lately?
Yes, I've actually been playing a fair bit of Vermintide 2 off stream, mostly for the Halloween event, because there's lots of fun little goodies you can get, and they added a special objective on certain maps for the Halloween mode that makes the game so nightmarishly hard. I hate it. I hate it so much, but you have to do it to get the shiny gubbins, and I want the shiny gubbins.
Do you main any of them?
Right now, I main Necromancer Sienna because I love that career so much. I like summoning classes, so the fact that you just summon skeleton boys and tell them to run at things and they just run over all the Skaven in their way is hilarious. It never gets old for me.
Fantastic. Yeah, the Necromancer was really cool actually. That was a cool class they introduced. Monsters, what have you been playing lately?
I've been on stream. I've been playing Alien Isolation.
Oh,
nice.
No, it's horrible. I hate it. It's traumatic. I spent the vast majority of several hours of my life hiding in a locker, just with the motion tracker there, basically having an emotional breakdown. So, no, it's an awful experience, and I don't think anyone should put themselves through it. It's terrible. I've also been playing Distant Worlds 2 because they've had a new DLC, and there's now like a crisis event at the end where the Shakturi, who are like the evil alien boys, turn up again and cause mischief, which is quite fun. So I'm trying to get to that bit, even though I'm not very good at that game. So
I can play itself. It's fine. That's actually a really cool thing. Actually, you make like an empire and you can automate so much that they just kind of do their own thing. It's actually crazy how much automation there is.
It really is. You just have to set it up right, because otherwise your empire kind of folds in on itself.
Damneders, what have you been playing lately?
I've about 5 hours deep into my first ever playthrough, Fallout New Vegas.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
It's just one of those games you just have to play. So yeah, I'm getting that done. It's the first like 2 hours of me, first of all, figuring out performance issues on PC. Classic Bethesda, even though it's not Bethesda, but I digress. And then walking around and dying to things because I didn't realize that I had like 1 armor point and also was level 2, so everything was killing me. But yeah, I'm doing all right now. I'm getting around.
As soon but after a while, you're like, wait, I sense a Cassador around. Wait. And then it's like,
it's like way more in depth than I thought. There's different ammo types. There's weapon that you can aim down sights. I didn't think you could do that in a Fallout game, but here we are.
New Vegas is the best kind of jank.
Oh yeah. That's
It's like 5 hours, and then you get a crash, and you're like, yeah, lasted pretty long this time.
I played for like 2 hours
Perfect.
today, didn't get a crash. Pretty nice. Touch wood.
Nice.
Very good. Very good.
Go on, Fred.
I've mainly been playing Veilguard personally, which is one of
Is
those
that
games
good?
that it's 8 out of 10 so far. I've not completed it, but so it might change. But it's an 8 out of 10 action game in Dragon Age world. It's not an RPG in that. There are RPG elements, but I stopped streaming it because I just couldn't. It's tearing on my mental health streaming because all the time people just come in like, "Hey, did you know that this game sucks? Hey, did you know that this is everything I hate?" And it's like listening to people who, on forums would be like, "So I hear this company have a new lawnmower. I live in an apartment. I don't use lawnmowers, but they changed the seat to yellow instead of gray. I am more of a gray person. Now, also, this lawnmower broke into someone's house and pooped in their kitchen sink. Once again, I live in an apartment. I would never, ever come close to a lawnmower in my life. But this lawnmower, I hate." And you sort of keep on going like that. It's the like weirdest things all the time. They're like...
Nothing better than, hey, streamer, I need you to agree with my opinions, or I'm going to be very upset. I'm going to be very upset.
So it just felt bad after a while to sit like you felt like you were how to say, defending this game that you didn't care that much about, because in the end it's like a 7 or 8 out of 10 type of action game that's just fun to play around in once, or maybe I'll play it once more again. Like, cool game though. Play it off stream now.
So what is the difference between Veilguard and Origins?
Origins is an old game that is an RPG in the end. This one is an action game like Shadow of War, the newer God of War games, things like that. It's also more colorful because in Origins, when they made this, everything was gray and sepia because that's what the trend was at the time.
Some things were brown.
I always imagine brown would be in sepia, but I'm not bad. I'm not good with colors, honestly. But you're probably right. Also, people hate on the graphics for Veilguard, but I think personally it's kind of a step towards the 360 era with all the bloom and like Kingdoms of Amalur type of games and like more blocky faces and things like that. It's basically a 360 game with all the bells and whistles of a modern graphics engine.
Okay, I was tempted to give it a try, so I might pick it up.
It's all right, honestly. It's all right. That and the Bannerlord Warhammer mod, that got an update.
I've heard so many good things about that.
Dude, try it. It's you will not regret it. It's so good, so good. They have so many cool little details as well. Like you can see that it's modded as well, and they just add in people, and you see like, oh, that's Gelt. Look at that shiny model they made, and it's so well made as well. The entire mod, like so good. It's still, I don't know, halfway through done or something like that, but it's just one of my favorite ways to play that game.
It's definitely on my to-do list, which is to be fair, a very big list, but it's on my to-do list.
Yeah, but like that's so good, and it's fairly true to lore as well. I mean, fairly, but it's crazy good.
Hey, to be fair, Warhammer lore is like a bunch of different lores that constantly attack people in dark alleys and stuff more lore into themselves to make themselves bigger. It's not it's not a consistent, easy to define entity.
Always with lore talk, stuff like that, it's always like, orcs would never work with other people, wouldn't work as mercenaries unless it's these orcs.
Yeah. There's it's the constant, this is a hardline rule except for these multiple exceptions.
This would never ever happen except for here, and this would always happen except for these times down.
And further you go back in sort of like the past of Games Workshop lore, the weirder it gets. So if you want to go
Undead and Chaos hate each other, never work together, except for when they used to be the same thing.
A Lizardman would never ever spare a Skaven. Definitely not a Slann, except for this Skaven, they would spare him.
Yeah, the good old and it's never ever helped by GW being like, we refuse to get involved and everything is canon and leave us alone.
Yeah.
Buy our
Everything-
minis, please.
Everything is canon until it isn't. It's fantastic. Dang. Favorites. I gotta ask you some lore questions now as well. Favorite lore, book just from weird lore in Warhammer, like novel.
I think my favorite book, like if I just had to grab a book as far as like this is my favorite thing that I could read endlessly over and over and over, and it's always a good time, I'd probably go with Gotrek and Felix Demon Slayer. But if you're looking for like, I want to read
Demon Slayer's
something
good.
that's like just kind of odd, but is an excellent time, then I would either say Bruner the Bounty Hunter or the Black Hearts.
Black Hearts is so good. That was like
Black
my
Hearts
first
is
Warhammer book.
amazing. It's
Yeah,
like, it's great.
It's hilarious as well because you sit there and like it can't get any worse now. Oh, it got worse. It just keeps on going like that.
It's
You're like,
basically Warhammer Suicide Squad, and it's really fun.
yeah, super good. I think personally, just from like if you would have to choose weird lore, the Ulrika books are fantastic for just weird,
they're great.
weird vampire lore. It's like every vampire is born with just a unique skill, like My Hero Academia quirk, basically. Like some of them can just go out into this. Some of them can just go out in the sunshine without major issues if they wear like a baseball cap on them. Some of them can fly. Some of them, like one of them, can talk to spiders. But spiders are dumb and can't say anything. So she can just talk to the spiders. The spiders will understand them, but they have tiny little spider like brains and can't understand her. So the only thing she uses it for is to telepathically have spiders in her castle in case somebody comes in and she's like, yeah, the spider. They tell me she's down there in the tunnel. Not specifically, but I know what they mean.
Yep, being undead, it's a thing.
Yeah.
it's a experience.
Yeah. That's they're great books just from insanely weird lore. Them and I'll always remember the two acrobats as well that are basically made out of marble, like marble statues. Two chaos Slaanesh dudes who are just basically 500 pounds, super beautiful marble statues, just like jump on walls and basically do Spider-Man acrobatics trying to kill her.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. Though the Gotrek and Felix series and the spin-offs of Thankful and Bone Ripper and Ulrika are they're super fun. Always a good time.
So somebody was reading through the Thankful books lately and just like giving me some pages from it, and just remembering those weird ass Molder things. It's like, yes, here Thankful is sitting and drinking piss wine again, and you're like, that's so weird. That's so
Thankful
weird.
is literally, it's a horror comedy series, which is a weird mix, but it works really well.
Yeah. Horror comedy is definitely how it's a good way to describe. I never thought about it like that. It 100% is. It's like he's trapped in a Molder castle, and then it's just body horror all the time. It's like, oh yeah, the curtains just keep me from leaving. But if I just want to go out and have a look, they just let me go to the window and have a look. But if I start climbing, the curtains will just throw me back. And it's like, oh, cool.
Yeah. Good times.
Very much good times. Well, I'd say that's it for us today. I appreciate anyone who has hung around for this long in the podcast.
What a trooper. I barely made it.
Damned will edit it down. He'll get the highlights. It'll be like 10 minutes long.
Yeah, I mean, like if you can edit down these 5 hours, that's going to be so good because there's probably a lot of stuff we don't need in this. Thank you to my co-hosts, Monster Bounds, Colonel Damneders, and special thank you to our esteemed guest here who endured us for these 5 hours.
This is super fun. I had a good time.
We have that video.
Like and subscribe. Leave a comment. What's your favorite lore book? Why is Sky so big? Answer me, riddle me that. Commentator man.
Which famous Warhammer lore character would you definitely have sex with?
Okay, that's enough. Goodbye, everybody.
For some reason, I knew that was exactly where you were going with that, and I don't know how I knew that.
My face. It's a general sort of. He's going to say something weird now.
It was that Glee.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye.